You killed an epic protagonist and got the protagonist worth 500,000. You triggered the crit talent and gained 33 times the crit. With the continuous increase of airluck, Sumo's critical strike multiplier is also increasing. The mythical crit talent is 10 to 50 times the crit of Goldfinger, and now Sumo's crit multiplier is frequently over 30 times. Only occasionally make 1 or 2 low multiples. Good luck this time. 1 is 30 times, 1 is 33 times, 1 is 25 times, and 1 is 28 times. With 4 epic protagonists combined, Sumo has a total of 58 million villain points. On top of that, the 4 epic protagonists are fed with plenty of protagonist villains. They also have some useful gold fingers on them. Your villain value has reached 50 million, and you have become a world-class villain. You have unlocked new permissions. You can go to the villain panel to view. On the villain panel, a prompt appears. Sumo looked at the villain panel, and soon, he knew the new authority of the Yaoshi level villain. This permission is still related to granting gold finger. A world-class villain who can bestow more types of gold fingers on his subordinates. However, these types and permissions still have some limitations. After reading it, Sumo spent 50 million villain points to boost his crit talent to a world-class level. You become the first villain with a world-class gold finger, and you get 10,000 villains and 500 luck. You trigger 50 times the critical strike, get 500,000 villain value and 25,000 luck value. On the villain panel, a prompt appears. Yaoshi level crit talent. As soon as he leveled up, he was rewarded with an unprecedentedly high multiplier crit. 50 times crit. Sumo looked at the crit talent. Critical strike talent, gold finger, is world class. Crit hits 40 to 200 times the normal harvest. The crit villain value harvest is half of the normal harvest, and the critical hit other gold finger harvest is 1/5 of the normal harvest. Yaoshi level crit talent is indeed more powerful. The upper limit of critical strike multiplier has been further increased. Although this upper limit is rarely reached, after the upper limit is raised, high multipliers are frequently attacked. Not to mention anything else, the basic multiple of the crit villain value has reached 20 times, up to 100 times. Critically hit other gold fingers, the lowest multiplier is 8 times, and the highest is 40 times. Too much power. After reading the crit talent, Sumo solved the remaining gold level protagonists. You killed a gold level protagonist and gained a villain value of 5,000. You triggered 55 times the critical strike and gained 275,000 villain values. Good guy. A gold level protagonist got more than 200,000 villain points. If the protagonists knew this, wouldn't they be scared to death? After solving all the gold level protagonists, Sumo's villain value will still be more than 17 million. Don't forget, he killed the epic protagonist Thunderpope before, and there are more than 5 million villains worth not spending. Sumo looked at his gold finger. This time, there are not many gold fingers that are useful to him. This time, all the protagonists and villains who developed in the capital are the protagonists and villains. The gold finger of these protagonists and villains are actually similar in type. Like some officials becoming stronger, divine talents, signing in and the like. Also got an eavesdropper by Sumo. This gold finger is only silver, which is actually very useless in this world full of gods. For Sumo, it does have some use. In contrast, at this stage, the protagonist who is hiding outside and developing, the rare gold finger is more. Sumo has also included several new types of gold finger. Those who pick up treasure chests can merge with the right hand of God. For eavesdropping, Sumo also compiled it. Maybe it will be useful in the future. There is also a lottery system. Other talented types of gold finger, Sumo also included a lot. Then, Sumo used the remaining villain value to upgrade the Lord system, Invincible Field, and Achievement system to the mythical level in one fell swoop. It has also upgraded the other gold fingers to epic levels. After the upgrade was complete, Sumo looked at his panel. Player. Sumo villain nickname, Phantom. Faction. Villain status, Eternal God level, Yaoshi level. Villain value. 85.27 million, 250,000 luck value, 588,000. Gold finger Yaoshi class. Crit talent mythic level. Right hand of God, Krypton gold system, Invincible Field, Lord system, Achievement system. Epic level. Success rate system, Eating soft meal system, Location check-in system, Shenhao system, Work check-in system, Divine talent, Evolution system. Legendary. Legendary ring, Voice system. Such a villain panel is quite luxurious. The crit talent of the world-class level should help me even more. Sumo thought. After the crit talent increases, his own crit also increases. So, Sumo drives the space power of the power level and begins to comprehend the space power. In a short time, he comprehended and captured a trace of space power. You have successfully comprehended a trace of space power, triggering a 50-fold crit, and you gain the power of space power 50. On the villain panel, a prompt appears. Sure enough, for his own harvest, high critical strikes also began to appear. You must know that because his power level is too high, in the past, Sumo's own harvest, the crit talent was generally several times the crit. 1 or 2 times is the norm, and 3 or 4 times is considered high. It's obviously more powerful now. This time, it's very good. 10 days should be enough, Sumo thought. With the power level space power, plus the bonus of the crit talent. Sumo is sure that within 10 days, he will have enough power in space. At that time, you can officially attack the master of space power. Sumo has already acquired a lot of space power before itself. His power level space power is not an ordinary space power, but a combination of light and dark power. Coupled with the defiantness of his bloodline, it is not difficult to master the power of space. Then, Sumo returned to the celestial realm, and above the 3rd month, began to retreat. His calculations were correct. 10 days later, Sumo felt that the power of his space power was unprecedented. There are so many, it is already possible to condense the power of space. Then let's begin. On the 3rd month, Sumo took a step forward. Boom. Throughout the 3rd month, it was a shock. The 7 goddesses of the moon flew out one after another and looked at Sumo. Feeling the breath of Sumo, the 7 goddesses were a little surprised. Mo, are you going to attack the power? The Dark Moon goddess asked. Sumo said, yes, Dark Moon, come with me. After speaking, he tore open a passage and drilled in. When it reappeared, Sumo had already appeared above the central god city. He wants to condense his own space scepter here. This is also the common choice of all the law powerhouses in the heavens when they attack the Lord of Power. The Lord of Power is unique. If you become, there is no way for other powerhouses to become. Therefore, when attacking the Lord of Power, it is likely to face the sniping of other law powerhouses. In heaven, this is also tacitly permitted. If you can't even deal with the sniping of the strong in law, how can you become the master of power? In this process, the masters of other powers will basically not interfere. One advantage of attacking in the central god city is that once there are too many strong snipers to attack the opponent, you can hide in the central god city when the opponent is ready to kill. In addition, as the largest divine city, the central divine city is equivalent to the central divine domain of the entire heaven, and its location is also in the central area. It is easier to succeed if you attack the Lord of Power here. After success, you can also get more blessings. Above the central city, with the appearance of Sumo, the entire central god city was shocked. This shock shocked a large number of angels and holy spirits in the central god city. Some of the new gods who were cultivating were also disturbed. What happened? I don't know, go out and have a look. In the central god city, a large number of angels and holy spirits flew out, and a new god appeared. Then, they saw that in the sky, Sumo's aura had become extremely terrifying. This is the breath of power. The formations of the central god city were completely illuminated by this. Some angels in the Holy Spirit just glanced at them and felt the endless pressure. If it wasn't for the protection of the divine formation in the central god city, they would kneel directly. They don't even dare to take a second look. Not only the angels, but a large number of new gods were also forced to take their breath away. One by one, the heart beat faster, and the face flushed. That's the eternal God. What is he going to do? The high-ranking god who happened to be in the central god city recognized Sumo and said loudly, Eternal God. The surrounding new gods were in a commotion. High in the sky, Sumo has already begun. The laws of space have been completely driven by him. Space power has also been rapidly converging. In front of him, the outline of a scepter has already appeared. To shape the space scepter, you need to outline the outline first, then focus on the space power inside, and finally, take shape in one fell swoop. The whole process, it sounds simple, but not simple. The chance of failure is not low. If there is not enough power in the grasp, it is impossible to succeed. In this process, if there is too much interference, it is impossible to succeed. If you don't have enough power, you won't be able to succeed. There are a number of other factors at play, in short. Too hard for God. Otherwise, why are there so few official lords of power in the heavens? Scepter. My God, the eternal God is going to attack the Lord of Power. When Sumo outlined the space scepter, the upper god thought of this and exclaimed in surprise. Being too surprised, his voice did not control the volume, and it resounded through the entire central god city at once. What? My God, is he going to become the eternal Lord so soon? Oh my God, In the central god city, countless exclamations sounded. What happened? The protagonist of Chaogu, who had been hiding all the time, was alarmed and ran out. Then, he saw Sumo. It's him. The protagonist of Chaogu is tight in his heart. Immediately afterwards, he heard everyone's exclamations. His eyes suddenly became bigger than Bull's eyes. The mouth is also open like a hippo. His face was full of shock. How is it possible? The protagonist of Chaogu screamed in his heart. I didn't expect the eternal god to attack the Lord of Power so soon. Yeah, it's too soon, actually. It's not surprising. Isn't there news that the eternal god is the reincarnation of the ancestor of time and space countless years ago? It is logical to become the Lord of Power. I am afraid that he has obtained more than 100,000 drops of divine power at the celebration. The Master of Law and the Master of Power also asked him to take action. While the complexion of the protagonist Chaogu changed greatly, not far from him, some angels and the Holy Spirit were talking about these things in a shocking tone. These masterless angels and Holy Spirits stay in the central city all day long. Regardless of their strength, they are extremely well informed. The central divine city can be said to be the place where news spreads the fastest in the entire heaven. A large number of gods will place an angel or Holy Spirit in the central city. In this way, if there is any new news in the heaven, if there is any major event, they will know immediately. This is not. Soon, a large number of gods knew that Sumo was attacking the Lord of Power. He's so fast. Above a divine star, the voice of a law powerhouse sounded. This divine star is the first-class star Odin, and this law powerhouse is naturally the Lord of Odin. Star Lord Odin's face was instantly filled with shock. The laws of space. There are a few old guys with deep knowledge. I'm afraid they will stop him. Go and see. Star Lord Odin pondered for a while, then set off directly to the central god city. Attacking the Lord of Power so soon. Not only Star Lord Odin, Lord of Storms also got the news soon. The Lord of the Storm was also taken aback. She also didn't expect that it was only a month or two before Sumo entered the heaven, and Sumo was actually attacking the Lord of Power. Such a speed is not astonishing in general. Although it is amazing, it is the same as the brain tonic of the angels and the Holy Spirit in the central god city. The Lord of the Storm naturally thought of a reasonable explanation. The current Sumo, in the eyes of the Lord of Storms, is a god who used to be extremely high, but lost his power. As long as you replenish your strength, you can make progress all the way. Don't think that strength is very good to supplement. The power of God itself takes a long time to accumulate. And in the wave 2 months ago, Sumo got a big wave of divine power. Didn't it just make up for the short board in power? Go and see. After the Lord of the Storm got the news, he left immediately. In the celestial world, the matter of Sumo's impact on power is spreading to the entire celestial world at an astonishing speed. In addition to some gods known through his own angels or the Holy Spirit, the fluctuations caused by Sumo's shock power itself have already spread far and wide. This wave of fluctuations was quickly sensed by some of the law powerhouses who were cultivating. This is space power. In a void far away from the central god city, an ancient existence was awakened. Space. Is it something you can touch? This ancient existence is an existence with extremely high attainments in the laws of space. Being highly accomplished in the laws of space often means that he has mastered power. Power itself is a derivative of law, equivalent to version 2.0 of force of law. However, this ancient existence has not been sufficiently sure to impact the master of space power. On the one hand, the power he possesses is not quite enough. On the other hand, he was worried about encountering sniping by other powerhouses who majored in the laws of space. Now, there are nearly 30 official power masters in the heaven, and the road left for other law powerhouses is getting narrower and narrower. Many law powerhouses know that they cannot reach the level of authority, and they are already content with the status quo. But there are also many law powerhouses who have enough strength and accumulation and want to break into power. Competition has naturally become extremely fierce. In contrast, there are not many strong people who major in space law, because space law is very difficult to comprehend. However, the law powerhouses who majored in the law of space and also cultivated the law of space to a very advanced level are extremely difficult to deal with. Under the mutual restraint of these law powerhouses, without sufficient assurance, no one dares to rashly attack the Lord of Power. Because once you are sniped and fail, you are basically out of the game. But now, Sumo's Lengtuching, but he didn't care and went straight on. How could this ancient powerhouse be endured? Therefore, after this law powerhouse was alerted, he moved quietly and left there. When many celestial gods were disturbed, in the central divine city, an extremely bright beam of light fell. Immediately afterwards, these beams of light were intertwined into a shrine of light, on which the Lord of Flames appeared. He is the first Lord of Power to come, it sure is him. The Lord of Flames looked at Sumo, and although there was a look of surprise on his face, there were also some unexpected expressions on his face. After sensing the movement, he descended immediately. His initial guess was also Sumo. Now, guesswork has come true. Although it was expected, the Lord of Flames was still surprised by Sumo's speed. As expected of the ancestors of time and space, the times are different, and they can still make such rapid progress. The Lord of Flames couldn't help thinking. After he was reincarnated, he also made great strides in the air, but it was far from the speed of Sumo. Haha, looking at it this way, the heavens are going to add another power lord. At this time, a hearty laughter sounded. The Lord of Flames has also arrived. Not far away, another Lord of Power also appeared. This is a branch of the Lord of Flame, and the Lord of Flame respectively controls the power of fire. In a short period of time, 3 power lords appeared. This is the beginning. Because, this time Sumo's movement is much bigger than when he first ascended to heaven. The weight in the minds of all gods is also much greater. When Sumo first entered the heaven, although Sumo caused a lot of commotion, he was still a new god at that time. Even if one ascends to the heaven, it becomes a high-ranking god, and the weight in many people's hearts is different. But although the upper gods are strong, their influence is limited after all. Like his new god celebration, though went to a large number of celestial gods. But these celestial gods only account for a small part of all celestial gods. There are still most of the gods in the heavens, because of various reasons, they did not go. At that time, Sumo, what people saw was the potential. This time is different. Originally, at the new god festival, Sumo became a law powerhouse in one fell swoop, and he surprised many gods on the spot. After the news spread, Sumo's weight in the heavens changed immediately. Now, Sumo is going to attack the Lord of Power. Once the impact is successful, Sumo will become the new Master of Power in the heavens. The weight of the Lord of Power is stronger than that of the upper god in the law, I don't know how much stronger. Authentic celestial boss. Every Master of Power is synonymous with power. Therefore, after getting the news, or sensing the movement, a large number of heavenly gods are coming at the fastest speed. Outside the central divine city, the number of gods and spirits arriving is also increasing. It can be said that the entire heaven was shocked by Sumo's movement this time. Really the eternal god. It's too fast, I don't know if he can succeed this time. Let's see if there will be a law powerhouse coming out to snipe. Even if the god of eternity knows a lot of power masters, according to the rules, power masters cannot interfere in such battles. It is not that all the masters of power are on the side of the eternal god, and the master of power he knows wants to intervene, it is estimated that it is difficult. Outside the central god city, after some gods arrived, they gathered together, and they discussed each one with shock on their faces. Usually these gods rarely gather, but now, after being alerted by Sumo, one by one has the desire to discuss. The gods keep coming. Soon, the new Lord of Power also came. After the arrival of the Lord of Power, he did not stand with the Lord of Flames and the others, but stood in the other direction from a distance, silently watching Sumo. In addition to the Lord of Power, the number of law powerhouses who have arrived is also increasing. This time, the central divine city became extremely lively. Seeing more and more gods coming, the Lord of Flame and the Lord of Flame looked at each other and went to a different direction. Soon, the Lord of the Storm also came and stood in a position. There is a kind of meaning to protect the law for Sumo. At this time, next to the Lord of Storms, the Lord of Ice also appeared. The Lord of Power, who was so cold as if he was a piece of ice, also had a look of surprise on his pretty face at this time. Nina, he is so rashly attacking the Master of Space Power, I am afraid that he will face a lot of sniping. The Lord of Ice said softly. The Lord of the Storm nodded. There are several old guys who are already infinitely close to the Lord of Space Power. They are jealous of each other and no one dares to move first. Mo is now a step ahead, and they will definitely make a move together. Those old guys have a lot of cards. Each of them has also made some powerful masters, and it may be difficult for us to intervene. The Lord of Ice looked at Sumo. I don't know if he can succeed. This time, I'm afraid most of the gods in the heavens will come over. Yeah, heaven hasn't been so lively for a long time. In the central god city, next to the protagonist Chaogu, some angels in the Holy Spirit were still discussing there. The protagonist Chaogu listened to the discussions between these angels in the Holy Spirit, and his expression became worse and worse. Seeing that Sumo has caused such a big movement, most of the heavens are disturbed. If you don't want to believe it, it has become a fact. Lord of Power. the protagonist Xiaogu took a deep breath. My heart is full of despair. It has been nearly a month since he became a god. In this month, with his gold finger, he has shaped the god body and entered the pinnacle of the true god. Seeing it is about to step into the next god. This speed is much faster than other gods. But Sumo is already attacking the Lord of Power. This gap is so big that it is impossible to see the slightest hope. It's like Sumo has rushed out of the atmosphere. He is still a savage who has just mastered stone tools. How does this FCK compare? There is absolutely no comparison at all. Now, he doesn't even dare to leave the central divine city, nor does he dare to open up his own divine kingdom. Otherwise, he can still descend to the world of the gods, and then Blacken will drop immediately and enter the abyss. This month after becoming a god, the protagonist Xiaogu did not think of a way. Even if you become a god, you can still Blacken. The god of the heavens, if willing, can also touch the power of the abyss and become a demon god. Of course, if the gods in the heavens fall into the abyss, their dispositions will change greatly, their souls will also be affected, and there is a great possibility that they will become, I am not me. As the protagonist of Xiaogu, it is naturally different. He can Blacken gold finger, relatively safe Blacken becomes a demon. It's just that the power becomes the power of the abyss, and the mind and consciousness will not be affected. But the premise is that he can leave the heaven, at least leave the central city. But he dare not. During this month, Sumo has been silent, and the protagonist Xiaogu has not thought about taking the risk to leave the central god city. The heaven is so big, he can hide wherever he goes, then he will open up the kingdom of gods, and come to the world of gods, then everything will be okay. If it doesn't work, he can still fly to the junction between the heaven and the abyss, find a chance to Blacken and enter the abyss. In short, as long as he leaves the central god city, there are many opportunities for him. But he just didn't dare. He always felt that Sumo's people were watching him secretly, and once he dared to leave the central god city, he would face a thunderous blow. Can't leave central god city, in central god city Blacken? That is also courting death. That's why the protagonist Xiaogu wants to have another protagonist who becomes a god so much to share the pressure. Each protagonist's gold finger is different, and there may be some special props in the other's gold finger that can help him get out of trouble. However, once Sumo becomes the Lord of Power, there are 3 days left before the new month. Once Sumo's god name is changed and displayed on the leaderboard, it will be known by other protagonists and villains. At that time, the other protagonists and villains will probably be terrified. At this stage, the protagonist and the villains have an unprecedented increase in their understanding of God. The difference between Eternal God and Eternal Lord, other protagonists and villains, can still be distinguished. Without absolute certainty, the other protagonists and villains may not dare to come to the heaven. This is another reason why the protagonist of Xiaogu is desperate. It's not so easy for him to become the master of power, and there are definitely many snipers he faces. Super Go protagonist's eyes flashed, thinking. He himself has no way to deal with the current Sumo. Not only that, he had to hide tightly, for fear that Sumo would suddenly attack him. Now, he can only count on a powerful law powerhouse to come to snipe Sumo. Although in the central divine city, there is an extremely terrifying divine formation to protect. Here, the Lord of Power can't take action, or do whatever he wants in it. But the protagonist of Xiaogu is not afraid of 10,000, just in case. Heaven has been standing for countless years, and there are many law powerhouses who want to be the master of space power. These law powerhouses will definitely not let him succeed. The protagonist Xiaogu regained some confidence when he thought about it. At this time, around the central divine city, the number of celestial spirits arriving is still increasing. And above the central city, Sumo has outlined the outline of the space scepter. His progress is so fast. Yes, the outline of the scepter came out of the gully so quickly. Some powerful gods saw the way. Sumo's progress is not usually fast. Just sketching the outline of the space scepter is much faster than the previous master of power. As soon as it was outlined, Sumo began to mobilize the power of power and injected it into the outline of the space scepter. This process is not simply a matter of injecting the power of power into it. Instead, use the power of these powers to continuously weave them inside, let them condense into one, and finally form an unbreakable space scepter. This process is also the easiest to fail. It may even be 90% successful, and if you are not careful, the whole scepter will be scattered like sand. He's starting to shape the scepter. Not far away, the 7 goddesses of the moon are all there. Recently, the 7 goddesses have also made rapid progress. Now the 3rd month has become their world, and they don't have to hand over a lot of harvest to the previous Stu Moon Lord as before. Including the new moon goddess, 3 more goddesses have entered the upper gods. Now there are only the goddess Morning Moon and goddess Sheui, who are still at the peak of the median god. However, they are also about to break through the upper god. Seeing that Sumo was about to shape the scepter, the 7 goddesses couldn't help but be amazed. Especially the goddess of the new moon. Sumo was still her son at the beginning. But in the blink of an eye, Sumo is about to become the master of power. In just a few months, such an earth-shaking change has taken place. Let the new moon goddess feel like she is in a dream for a while. The dark moon goddess has a deeper feeling. She still remembers that 10 years ago in the abyss, Sumo was still a demon king level succubus. Why Sumo was a succubus 10 years ago, the dark moon goddess never understood. But she didn't go into it. As she had decided, even if Sumo is really a demon, one day, the whole world will be against Sumo. She is also willing to stand next to Sumo. Now, seeing Sumo so soon far surpassed him, and is about to become the Lord of Power, the heart of the dark moon goddess is full of joy. Do not know why. Now, she seems more willing to see that Sumo can go higher and farther than her own achievements. Time passed little by little. More and more gods are coming. Ordinary gods have come quite a lot. As for the Lord of Power, there are probably more than a dozen in the open and secret. There are also some powerful lords who cast their gazes through their angels or holy spirits even if they did not come by themselves. Higher level existences do not appear, but in the dark, it is very likely that his eyes have been lowered. Many of the lords of power who appeared publicly expressed their attitudes. Like the Lord of the Storm and the others, they have all stood on each side. However, when the power is impacted, it is almost a practice in the heavens to be blocked by other law powerhouses. Judging from the past situation, there are not many things they can do in the end. Even if they want to intervene, some other power lords will not be willing. Some powerful lords were killed abruptly. If Sumo is protected by a group of power lords to become a power lord, he will also be looked down upon by other power lords. At the same time, the masters of other powers will not let them go. Although the overall order of the heavens is good, what the heavens need is not to be the Lord of Power, but also to be protected by sheep. Like the Lord of Storms and the others, they can only guarantee that in case Sumo fails, Sumo will not suffer too much loss. So, the key is to rely on Sumo himself. Above the central city, Sumo continuously injected the power of space power that he mastered into the prototype of the scepter. Then the power of these powers is continuously weaved, so that the space scepter can be rapidly formed. Why is his progress so fast? A law-strong man whispered. Sumo weaving the space scepter too fast. It's only been 2 hours, and he's already knitted more than 1/10 of his volume. At this speed, he is likely to be able to shape the space scepter in 1 day. The law is strong. The fastest record in the past will take 3 days. Another law strongman was also a little surprised. In fact, the speed of Sumo's shaping of the space scepter is not ordinary. In the past, when the law powerhouse attacked the Lord of Power, it was the fastest, and it took 3 days. The slowest one took a whole month. It was a very ancient Lord of Power. At that time, it was during the war between the Abyss and the Heavens, and it also faced an attack from the Abyss. The faster the time, the more terrifying Sumo's grasp and understanding of space power. The odds of success are even faster, so fast. In the high sky, the Masters of Power, the Lord of Flames and the Lord of Flames, were also shocked by Sumo's progress. As expected of the ancestor of time and space. The Lord of Flames said this again. Some other secret power masters, seeing Sumo's progress so fast, also cast more eyes on each one. Why is he so fast? In the central god's domain, some areas away from the central god's city, a voice sounded. This voice belongs to a law expert who majors in space. If it goes on like this, within today, he may be successful, he can't wait any longer, he will shoot at night. The strong man of this law has a decision. Then, he looked in one direction, where there was a trace of spatial fluctuations. Star Master Mingshu, since you are here, come out, this time we have a common enemy, you don't have to hide it, this is not easy, we are the best choice to join forces. This law powerhouse said solemnly. After his voice fell, a figure appeared there. Hey, is it so lively? If you want to join forces, you will be considered an old man. At this time, another voice sounded. Another powerhouse majoring in the laws of space has appeared. There is no master of power in the space system. Therefore, although it is very difficult to comprehend the laws of space and the power of space, there are many gods who choose to take this path. These 3 space law powerhouses have a very high grasp of space power. It is only 1 step away from the Lord of Power. If it is not for mutual jealousy, no one dares to take the first step. I am afraid that there is already a master of space power. It is very likely that he is the reincarnation of an ancient power, and there are many methods. Let's make a move together. When the sun sets, one blow will smash his scepter, so that he will never have a second chance. The fourth space law powerhouse appeared. These space law powerhouses themselves also intend to join forces. After they arrive, they will deliberately leak some spatial fluctuations that others cannot feel. Now, where they are, other gods can't even notice it. Even the Lord of Power would not notice them unless he came close. These four space law powerhouses who are already very close to the Lord of Power quickly negotiated everything. They all belong to the gods who are quite ancient in the heaven, and they rarely show up at ordinary times. In the central god city, Sumo's progress is as fast as ever. In the eyes of all the gods, in the afternoon, Sumo's scepter was already half healed. Those four law powerhouses are a little unable to hold back. The huge sun began to slant westward. Dusk has come. Sumo's scepter is halfway better. The further back, Sumo is uncharacteristically getting faster and faster. Totally beyond their expectations. His progress has accelerated. Get ready to shoot. Okay. The strong of the four laws can no longer collapse. Decided to take action. These four law powerhouses sneak towards the central god city, ready to shoot at the same time. The other side. Around the central god city, more and more gods are coming. Seeing Sumo's rapid progress, these gods are being greatly shocked, and at the same time, they are also far away from the central city. As a god, you are naturally not stupid. They all realize that if there is a god who snipes Sumo, the other party may be about to shoot. They don't want to be affected. Some gods also entered the central city of God. The central god city is protected by a terrifying divine formation, and it is difficult to break through in a short period of time with easy attacks. With such a fast speed, if there is no blocking, I am afraid it will not take a day, he will be able to succeed. Yeah, this speed is unprecedented, but the strong law of blocking has not yet shot. Whether the god of eternity can succeed, maybe. I feel a little difficult. The master of space power has been vacant for so many years, and there are a lot of space law powerhouses secretly. The god of eternity is so defiant, they will definitely shoot together. Yeah, even if there is no Lord of Power to protect him. If it can't be protected, there must be a powerful master behind those who are strong in law. Even if there is not, other power masters will not allow them to break the rules of the heavens. In the central god city, some true gods were talking about it. In a heap of true gods, the protagonist Xiaogu looked at Sumo in the sky and listened to the discussions of other true gods around, and felt more and more that Sumo was against the sky. Is this the horror of the mythical Goldfinger? If I knew earlier, I should suppress my strength and kill the mythical first. Super Go Protagonist thought. It is not easy to kill to the mythical level by himself. Especially after this wave of cleanup by Sumo, many villains don't stay in the capital at all. They all hid, leaving only their subordinates in the capital. Moreover, behind some gold-level villains, they also have demigod combat power, and it is really not easy for him to solve each other. Not to mention legendary and epic villains. The forces behind these villains are astonishingly large. He fights with others with the strength of a demigod, but he really can't fight. The villain above the gold level is not easy to deal with, he can only start with the silver level. How many silver level villains did he have to kill to reach the mythical level? It will take a lot of time, and if you want to suppress it, you may not be able to suppress it. It is precisely because of this that he wants to enter the heavenly realm first, to enhance his divine power, and to take the lead. Regardless of whether the protagonist or the villain, in the end, it must come to become a god. If you can't be a god, how can you fight with a god? No matter how powerful the power in the world of gods is, it cannot interfere in the heaven, and can only passively face the cross-dimensional blow from the heaven. In this way, the protagonist of Xiaogu has the advantage of the first mover, and will be further ahead in the future. But the ideal is plump, the reality is skinny. This guy is extremely regretful now. The strong sniping law should be about to shoot. Super Go Protagonist thought. Hearing the discussions of other true gods around him, he regained some confidence. You dare to attack space power recklessly. You don't know how difficult it is. How many space law powerhouses are there in the heavens, staring at this position? Xiaogu Protagonist's inner activities are unprecedentedly rich. There you keep giving yourself hints. He is also helpless, the taste of despair is not good, he must give himself a glimmer of hope. His thoughts had only just fallen. Outside the central god city, the space suddenly shook. Immediately afterwards, the four law powerhouses appeared together. Those who are strong in these four laws have an incomparably high achievement in space power. To some extent, these four space law powerhouses can all be regarded as quasi-power masters. Of course, their level is a little lower than that of the Nightmare Lord, a god who is only a little short of entering the power level. But even the powerhouses at the peak of the law are not as good as them. When these 4 law powerhouses become stronger, they each drive the space law and space power. Boom! Immediately afterwards, over the central city of God, the collision between law and power began. This collision made the entire central god realm tremble. Then I saw that Sumo's scepter trembled slightly. Seems to be affected. Coming. Super Go Protagonist's eyes lit up. So strong. Those who are strong in these 4 laws are probably only one step away from the master of power. Not far away, the voice of a high-ranking god who entered the central god city sounded. I'm afraid they have already reached the level of quasi-power masters. It is said that the masters of space power have never been involved, because several ancient law powerhouses are restraining each other. Another superior Shinto who knows some insider information. 4 quasi-powerful masters. Haha, this time he will definitely not succeed. When he heard the voices of these 2 upper gods, the protagonist Chaogu was in a good mood. The heavy stone that was pressing on my heart has finally disappeared. His eyes also completely lit up. 4 quasi-powerful lords. In his opinion, Sumo can only be regarded as a quasi-power master before he successfully condenses the space scepter. In other words, Sumo is now going to fight with 1 and 4. 4 ancient space law powerhouses, 1 against Sumo. Sumo will never succeed. Sure enough, these guys are ready to shoot together, 1 more than I expected. The voice of the Lord of Flames sounded. His eyes looked to the distance, where a few hidden power masters revealed a hint of breath. It's an attitude. If the Lord of Flames and the others intervene, there is a great possibility that the other party will intervene. It seems that he can only rely on himself. Since he is sure to attack now, the problem is not big. The Lord of Flames has confidence in Sumo. 4. Liuswang, in case he loses, we will protect him. The Lord of the Storm looked at the 4 appearing space law powerhouses and said to the Lord of Ice. She actually wanted to intervene, but most of the attention of the heavens was here. There is also a master of power behind the strong of the 4 laws. The Lord of the Storm really wants to intervene, and I'm afraid it won't help Sumo. But in case Sumo loses and fails, she can still make a move. In the surroundings, the appearance of the 4 quasi-powerful lords also alarmed all the gods who were watching. Among these gods, some powerful gods also felt their terrifying strength. Difficult. 1 against 4, let's see what cards he has. Many gods are not very optimistic about Sumo. After all, Sumo's opponent is not weak. Each of them is an existence that can impact the master of space power at any time. God of Eternity, the power of space is not within your reach, you give up now, it's still too late. The 4 quasi-power masters have already flown over. As they approached, the collision between law and power became more and more intense. Sumo's progress in condensing the scepter starts to slow down. Even the scepter is faintly unstable. Sumo must expend strength to hold the scepter in shape, and at the same time, deal with the attacks of others. In this process, if one is not handled well, the scepter is likely to collapse. The Dark Moon Goddess flew out, and the Lord of Power can't intervene, but she doesn't care. Hey, little girl, you don't even have access to power, so don't meddle in this matter. Seeing the Dark Moon Goddess flying out, a quasi-powerful master. Stop talking nonsense. Let's just end it. Another quasi-power lord is obviously the type who doesn't speak much of ruthlessness. As soon as he spoke, the Lord of Power raised his strength. Next second, a terrifying space storm took shape and rushed towards Sumo frantically. At the same time, the entire space of the central god territory was shaken, and there was a violent vibration at the law level. This quasi-power master launched an attack directly at the law level. This is the scepter to destroy Sumo. Such an attack, if seen with the naked eye, cannot be seen at all. But God can feel the extremely terrifying and destructive energy fluctuations contained in it. It was like a landslide and a tsunami. The whole world seemed to have a terrible roar. This kind of sound does not come directly from the air, but after the space vibrates, it is directly printed into your head. In the central divine city, even with the protection of the divine array, some weak angels were almost shocked into idiots. So strong. As a true god, the protagonist Chaogu was shocked and delighted after feeling the fluctuations in the law. The shock is the strength of the strong law. The happy thing is that Sumo's odds of winning are low when the opponent is so strong. Oh, then it's over. Seeing that the first quasi-power master has launched an attack, the power of the second quasi-power master has also surged. The latter 2 quasi-power masters did not hesitate and launched an attack at the same time. Their attack is simple. What you can see with the naked eye is a terrifying space storm. What is invisible to the naked eye is the impact on Sumo at the level of law, with the power of law and power. This is to shatter Sumo's 2/3 formed space scepter in one fell swoop. If Sumo can't stop it, this blow will directly end his journey of shocking power this time. So cruel. The Lord of the Storm's eyes became sharp. She has no more time to think, because the attack of the 4 quasi-power masters has come. The goddess of the dark moon directly drove the light and dark power that Sumo gave her, and attacked the space storm violently. But the space storm is too terrifying, and her attack can only be blocked. What? This time, it made the other party look at her with admiration. As for the attack on the level of law and power, she can't stop it at all. Seeing these attacks hit like a tsunami, Sumo finally moved. A terrifying power surged out of him. The right hand seems to be slightly patted forward. Boom. The next second, I saw that the raging space storm, under this shot, shattered. But the biggest power of this shot is not there. But it's the law level. The entire central god realm seemed to tremble. The huge wave, like a tsunami at the level of the law, under this shot, shook violently. Then, all shattered. On the opposite side, the faces of the 4 quasi-powerful masters changed dramatically, and before they could react, they felt like they were hit hard. Puff. The 3 quasi-power masters trembled and vomited blood together. A quasi-power master is weaker, and his body suddenly exploded into blood mist. The power of a single blow is so terrifying. Hiss. Around, suddenly there were countless sounds of gasping for air. Hiss. Around the central god city, a bunch of law powerhouses sucked in a breath of cold air. They were also surprised by the power of Sumo's blow. This blow is terrible. Not only did it destroy the space storm that looked extremely terrifying, it also smashed the attacks launched by the 4 quasi-power masters at the level of law. Just break it. Sumo's attack is even more domineering and counterattacks the past. At the level of law, the 4 quasi-power masters have been severely damaged. Blast 1-2. The law of space is a law that is extremely difficult to grasp and extremely powerful. The space power derived from the space law is also extremely powerful. Originally, the 4 quasi-power masters shot, in the eyes of these law powerhouses, even if Sumo can block it, it will be suppressed. Sumo's best way is to use all his strength to block the opponent's attack, and at the same time, quickly condense the scepter successfully. Sumo's ability to achieve this step is not easy in the eyes of these law powerhouses. After all, Sumo needs a lot of strength to maintain the scepter and avoid the scepter from collapsing. But who knows? The development of things exceeded everyone's expectations. With just one blow, Sumo beat the 4 quasi-power masters to vomit blood. One of the quasi-power masters, after being attacked by the law and power level, actually exploded. This is the danger of fighting at the level of law. This quasi-power master has already tried his best to drive the power of law and power. After Sumo counterattacked, he didn't even have a chance to hide. Law powerhouses all know how difficult it is to do this. 4 powerful quasi-power masters join forces. It is a formal Lord of Power, unless it is a Lord of Power comparable to the level of the Lord of God. Otherwise, their blow would not have achieved such an effect at all. The weaker Master of Power and the Master of these 4 quasi-space powers may not even be able to compete. Maybe fight for a few years, but they can't help them. Space itself is a very profound force. The 4 quasi-space power masters are united, and the general power masters, even if they are not false, are really unwilling to confront them head-on. But Sumo did it. In the face of the attacks of these 4 quasi-space power lords, Sumo made a bold blow. In one blow, 3 injuries and 1 explosion. How can this not shock these law powerhouses? Not only the law powerhouses, but even the masters of power, both openly and secretly, all have their eyes wide open. Even they couldn't believe their eyes. I can't believe that Sumo is so tough. His strength. I'm afraid it is already comparable to power. The Lord of the Storm took a deep breath and said. Beside her, the face of the iceberg goddess, Lord of Frost, was also covered with deep shock. So strong. The Lord of Flames was shocked. This is the ancestor of time and space. The times are different. I want to go further. I don't know how long it will take, but I am afraid he will soon become a giant. The Lord of Flames stared at him and kept thinking about it. His feeling is different from that of other power lords. Although it is the reincarnation of the ancient power, after the reincarnation, the Lord of Flame also deeply felt the shackles brought by the different times. Although he quickly reached the level of power, this level is also the level of the past. After reaching the power level, if he wants to go further, it won't be so fast. This is also his distress as a reincarnated person. But Sumo is so strong, at the level of power, he can still have such an invincible appearance. In the eyes of the Flame Lord, Sumo may soon become a celestial giant. Even the Masters of Laws and the Masters of Power are like this. Ordinary celestial gods, not to mention. Around the central god city, the ordinary gods in the heavens opened their mouths and fell into sluggishness. As a result, the surroundings of the central god city fell into a brief silence. In the sky, the space that has been shattered by several layers is slowly repairing itself. Before, under the rolling of the space storm initiated by the 4 quasi-power masters, the space was like a layer of glass, shattered under the sweep of the space storm. On the opposite side, after the 3 quasi-powerful lords vomited blood, their faces were horrified and they retreated one after another. A large amount of blood fog of the quasi-power master who was blasted recondensed and turned into a figure with a transparency of almost 90%. This guy, relying on the life-saving thing, also recovered a life. But it's also obsolete. Now, he has lost 99% of his strength and is extremely weak. I don't know how long it will take for him to recover. Boom. At this time, the law level was shocked again. Sumo's attack is back. The 3 quasi-power masters, including the guy who was beaten up, quickly retreated with horrified expressions on their faces. But it's too late. Seeing that Sumo's attack is about to hit them. Suddenly, in the rear, a dense electric light appeared. These electric lights fell from the sky, with terrifying fluctuations, in front of the 4 quasi-power masters, forming a shield composed of electric lights. As soon as this shield is formed, Sumo's attack has arrived. The central god territory trembled again. Then I saw that the shield suddenly shattered. Stop. The 4 quasi-power lords gave their all. Puff. The next second, they vomited blood again. The quasi-powerful lord who just survived with the life-saving thing. This time there is no chance, and he was directly beaten to the point of annihilation. Not only that. Among the remaining 3 power masters, 1 power master was also blown up again. The power of Sumo's blow is exhausted. This dissipates. Around, many gods were shocked again. God of Eternity, you dare. An angry voice sounded. Immediately afterwards, a power lord suddenly appeared. After this master of power appeared, several other masters of power also revealed their breath. Are you going to intervene? Seeing that the Lord of Power appeared, Sumo's expression remained unchanged, looking at the other party, said. This is a powerful lord with thunderlight in his eyes. This is also a power master who has mastered the power of thunder. But not the Lord of Thunder. It seems that this Lord of Power and the Lord of Thunder have each mastered a branch of Thunder's power. Moreover, the other party gave him the feeling that he was stronger than the Thunderlord. The Lord of Thunder, but masters the Thunder God realm. In the Thunder God realm, there is enough thunder energy for the Thunderlord to condense the divine power of the power level. I don't know where the territory of the Lord of Power is, and where did he get the thunder energy. This is the Lord of Lightning. His strength is unfathomable. He is one of the lords of the 9 stars, and occupies the Thunder Star among the 9 stars. The Lord of the Storm came not far from Sumo and gave Sumo a voice transmission. Lord of 9 stars. In the celestial realm, many divine stars, generally the owners of first-class stars, are extremely powerful law powerhouses. 9 stars, it seems that it is still far above the first-class stars. Otherwise, the energy above would not be able to support such a powerful Lord of Power. Behind Sumo, the Lord of Thunder and the Lord of Flame also appeared quietly. The Lord of Flames also appeared. If other power lords want to deal with Sumo by bullying the small, they will naturally not sit idly by. Although, the Lord of Lightning used the big to bully the small, did not take advantage of it, but also lost face. There was anger in the eyes of the Lightning Lord. He has shot. Sumo is still so strong. Moreover, his casual blow was broken by Sumo. For him, he couldn't hold back his face. But seeing that the masters of power behind Sumo appeared, even if the master of lightning was powerful, he did not rashly take action. Lord of Lightning, your shot is not very compliant. The voice of the Lord of Thunder sounded. Humph. The Lightning Lord glanced at Sumo, seeing that the remaining 2 law powerhouses had fled away, and with a light snort, the figure quickly disappeared. It is unrealistic for him to do it again, and since this is the case, there is no need to say too much. Sumo swept over the place where the Lord of Lightning disappeared, and with a single move, in the spaces that were shattered by the space storm, the power of the law and the Lord of Power in it quickly dissipated. In a short period of time, it was back to normal there. Then, Sumo withdrew his gaze and quickly gathered his scepter. In the central god domain, it became quiet again. Only the waves of fluctuations caused by Sumo at the level of the law remain. Sumo's scepter is still rapidly taking shape. Too strong. Yeah, the Lord of Lightning failed to save them. This time, I'm afraid no one will dare to stop it. Soon, on the Zhou side of the central god city, the gods were once again shocked. As if there were a lot of bees. Once again, it became extremely lively. All the shocked gods were discussed there. Sumo's power makes them extremely shocked. This battle did not last long. Sumo only launched 2 attacks in total. 1 hit, 3 injuries and 1 explosion. With 1 blow, the shield of the Lord of Lightning will be broken, and another one will be blasted. The one that exploded before has also completely fallen. In the first battle, 2 law-level powerhouses fell. Such a thing has rarely happened in the heavens. Even a master of power can't stop Sumo. How can such a strong Sumo not be shocked? After Sumo 2 strikes, he stopped and concentrated his scepter with all his strength. The shock of 2 blows is so great. You must know that Sumo at this time has not yet become the master of power. FCK. How could he be so strong? In the central god city, the protagonist Xiaogu couldn't believe his eyes. He's in crazy mode again, and he's going crazy. A few more, he can only hope that there will be another law powerhouse to stop it. But he was destined to be disappointed. No one dared to come out to stop it. The moon rose in the sky one after another, constantly climbing from the crescent state. Finally, rushed to the top. It's almost done. A divine way. Other gods also looked forward to it. In front of Sumo, the space scepter has been completely formed. Next second. Boom. The entire central god territory trembled. The space scepter exudes a dazzling brilliance. The light of the scepter suddenly illuminated the entire central god realm, and the moon was completely invisible. Space scepter. Done. All the gods felt the coercion of power. Immediately after, Sumo reaches out and holds the space scepter. Boom. With Sumo's action, the surrounding space shook again. Immediately afterwards, the light emitted by the scepter changed again. Originally, the white light emitted by Sumo's space scepter. But now, the light emitted by this space scepter suddenly turned golden. Asterisk. The golden light radiated out, illuminating the entire central divine realm in a golden light. All objects are covered with a layer of golden light. Asterisk. This kind of change has also made many gods in the heavens, one by one, curious. Everyone wants to know what happened and why the light from Sumo's scepter suddenly changed. The scepter that emits golden light seems to have never existed. Different scepters have different colors, like the Lord of Flames. The light emitted by his scepter is similar to the color of the sun. It's the brightest part of the sun flame. The color of his scepter is also similar to the color of the sun. Is pale yellow. The scepter of the Thunderlord, the light emitted is blue and white. His scepter is the same color as thunder. This color is not determined by the Lord of Power himself. It is based on the power at your disposal. Different powers show different colors. There has never been a scepter that radiated golden light. Even the masters of power who have mastered the power of gold, when their scepters are successfully shaped, the light they emit is not golden. This gold does not mean gold. It refers to all metals, including god gold and the like. Now that Sumo has mastered the power of space, the scepter actually emits golden light, which naturally makes many gods curious about it. Among the curious eyes of many gods, finally, the golden light gradually dissipated. Sumo's scepter appeared in the eyes of all the gods. That, impressively, is one golden scepter. It looks like it's made of gold. It looked majestic and sparkling. Many gods can feel the terrible energy contained in that golden scepter just by looking at it. Also, the coercion from the power level. Even the powerhouses of the law lowered their heads subconsciously and did not dare to take a second look. Not to mention other powerhouses. As for those godless angels and holy spirits, they have already prostrate themselves on a large scale. When a powerful lord releases his breath with all his strength, ordinary angels and holy spirits cannot resist the pressure from power at all. In the eyes of countless gods, Sumo is holding a scepter, and the breath on his body is constantly rising. Once the scepter is 10%, the scepter is activated, and the power mastered by oneself is brought to a higher level, resulting in a qualitative change, and it is the master of the official power. For Sumo, this process is easy. He had already made all the preparations to become the Lord of Power. It's just a scepter. So, the whole process didn't last long. After just a few minutes, the feeling of Sumo has changed. Boom, the central god domain changed again. In the eyes of all, Sumo's breath has changed. The breath that belongs to the Lord of Power floats up. His body is also full of endless majesty. God is mighty. Run to all directions. At this moment, even other gods have a feeling that they don't dare to look directly. Immediately after, In the sky, there seems to be a sound of music. Blessings from heaven are here. Sumo raised the scepter. The whole person is shrouded in pure white holy light. This is the heaven, a blessing to the newly promoted Lord of Power. Power. Bathed in the blessings of the heavens, Sumo felt his own strength and whispered. In this wave, after his space scepter was successfully condensed, there was an unexpected gain. Originally, his space power was different from ordinary space power. Other space divine powers are only created by combining the space energy with the divine power of the power level. Sumo's space supernatural power, although it is also a space supernatural power, but a space supernatural power that combines the supernatural power of light and darkness. With such space divine power, it surpasses other space divine powers by how much? After becoming the Lord of Power, he will also be stronger. When he is not the Master of Power, Sumo is not afraid of other Masters of Power only with the strength of divine power. Once you become the Master of Power, it is even more different. Therefore, the color of the scepter is also different from others. This wave of unexpected gains is, when the space scepter is successfully condensed, the crit talent is also triggered. Yao Shi level crit talent, for ordinary harvest, the crit multiplier is 40 to 200 times. However, because Sumo's power level is too high, even if Sumo's luck has reached hundreds of thousands, it is reasonable to say that the normal gain of crit is 100 times, which is easy. But this time the multiplier of the crit is not high, only 10 times. In other words, Sumo's space scepter, its power will be 10 times greater than other scepters. In the future, when the gold finger level is further improved, Sumo can also reshape the scepter, which will lead to a higher crit multiplier. This harvest is very good. After becoming the Lord of Power, the role of the scepter is also very important. It can make a Master of Power better drive the power of power. This time, the crit hit 10 times, and the power of his scepter was greatly increased. At the same time, the color has completely turned golden. It looks golden and dazzling. Although for Sumo, the power of light and darkness is always the core, but it is naturally excellent to be able to master more power and become stronger at the level of power. Who would think that they have too many means? In the central city, as Sumo received the blessing of the heaven, a name also appeared faintly. This is Sumo's divine name. Originally, the name of this god was Eternal God. But now, Sumo's name is changing. In a short period of time, from the God of Eternity to the Lord of Eternity. One word difference. There is a world of difference in its meaning. This means that Sumo has officially become the Lord of Power recognized by the entire heaven. Eternal Lord. He succeeded. In the heaven, another big man has been added. Becoming a celestial boss so quickly, the Eternal Lord has created a new record. Yeah, I have a hunch that the growth rate of the Eternal Lord in the future may exceed our expectations. I don't know where he will choose. Will he go to the god's domain without a master, or will he choose some powerful gods? Seeing that Sumo has become the official Master of Power, the interest of many gods around him to discuss is also high. A new Lord of Power, a new celestial boss. This kind of thing is also a grand event for the heavenly world. Moreover, the Lord of Power this time is still so powerful, so terrifying, and the feeling it gives is completely different from all the previous Lords of Power. Too fast. So soon to be the Lord of Power. The key is that in this process, the two quasi-power masters have been extremely powerfully destroyed. Even the Lord of Lightning couldn't stop it. Such Sumo, in the eyes of many gods, is not ordinary tough. They seem to have seen the rise of a new giant. He made it. Above the central divine city, the eyes of the dark moon goddess brightened. Sumo made it. For her, this is even more gratifying than her becoming the Lord of Power. Not only her, but the other 6 goddesses, one by one, also rejoiced at Sumo's success. Mo Chang has power. These 6 goddesses, even if they witness with their own eyes, still feel a little incredible. Congratulations to your little friend for being certified. In the high sky, several power masters who had made good friends with Sumo sent their congratulations for the first time. Those who had gone to the Sumo kingdom to participate in the new god celebration before, also appeared one by one. Come and congratulate Sumo. Seeing that Sumo has become the Master of Power so quickly, these law powerhouses are shocked and envied one by one. Envy that Sumo became the Lord of Power so quickly. It is too difficult for them to want to be the Master of Power. The accumulation of power is on the one hand, and on the other hand, comprehending laws and powers is a very difficult thing in itself. But here at Sumo, it's as simple as eating and drinking. So, soon, Sumo was surrounded by the Lord of Power and the powerful law. Around, the other gods who came did not leave one by one. They all wanted to congratulate Sumo, and in front of Sumo, they looked familiar. However, Now Sumo is surrounded by power lords and law powerhouses. These gods want to go, but there is no chance. He really made it. In the central god city, the heart of the protagonist Xiaogu has sunk to the bottom. After 2 of the 4 quasi-power masters were blown up by Sumo, the protagonist Xiaogu actually knew that it was a certainty that Sumo became the master of power. But, until the end, he was unwilling to accept the fact. Now, see Sumo finally being the lord of power. No matter how unwilling the protagonist of Xiaogu is, he can only accept the facts. Now he has stopped thinking about why Sumo is so powerful. It doesn't make sense to think about this. What he's thinking now is, what is he going to do? However, after thinking about it, the protagonist Xiaogu couldn't think of any way to break the game. In the face of absolute strength, even if he has an epic gold finger, and several other gold fingers taken from the villain, this situation is unsolvable for him. What can he do? Escape from the central god city. I'm afraid, as soon as he leaves the central god city, what awaits him will be a sharp blow from Sumo. No, Sumo doesn't even have to do it himself. As a new celestial boss, as long as Sumo gives an order, I am afraid there will be N gods rushing to kill him. Even those with strong laws are willing to take action to please Sumo. What can he do? He has not even come to the next god. It would be great if I could find a powerful lord to back up. At this time, the Super Go protagonist began to envy Tien luck. Because heavenly luck is obviously greatly appreciated by the god behind the Holy Court Empire, and when heavenly luck enters the heavenly realm, the other party may be willing to take action for him. But he is a developmental model that emphasizes growth and ignores power. Among all the protagonists, the growth is the fastest. But it doesn't have its own power, and it has nothing to do with other powers. With his initial anti-sky, there is no problem with this developmental model. Without Sumo, this guy would probably be way ahead. Unfortunately, nothing is if. Therefore, the current Super Go protagonist, after thinking about it, can't think of any good way. I looked around Goldfinger and couldn't find a way. I don't believe it, he dares to take action in the central god city. In the end, this Super Go protagonist can only hope for the protection provided by the central god city. In the high sky, Sumo is still surrounded by many power lords and law powerhouses. Little friend, are you going to occupy a godless realm next, or are you going to some special gods? The Thunder Lord asked about Sumo's next plan. Sumo looked at the Lord of Thunder and said, I don't know much about today's celestial realm, so I don't know what advice the seniors have. The Lord of Thunder said, there are currently 36 god realms in the heaven realm, and there are more than a dozen god realms that do not have a god realm lord. However, the energy in these god realms may not be suitable for the little friend. With the little friend's strength, I suggest that the little friend can consider it. Return to the market star. Return to ruins. These 3 words made the expressions of the other masters of power not move. Guishu Xingxing is one of the 9 stars. It ranks high among the 9 stars. It is a divine star with space attributes, but it is very difficult to become a Guishu star lord. There was a law peak that tried to become a Guishu star lord, but it fell. Return to the market star. Lord of the Storm. Oh? Is there anything special about Guishu Xing? Sumo asked. The Lord of the Storm said, the trajectory of the returning star is outside the celestial realm, in a hidden state, without contacting the laws of space. It is difficult to find its location, and there are some unknown dangers inside, especially when it is very close to the abyss. After the Lord of Storms finished speaking, the Lord of Flamelight added, the trajectory of the returning star is floating, and there may be some ancient and evil ancient gods hiding on it, as well as some evil creatures from outside the sky. The return of Ruin Xing to the heaven is a grand event. Several power lords, your words and my words, let Sumo know a lot about this returning star. Sumo also developed some interest in this returning star. His current kingdom of God is temporarily above the 3rd month. But the 3rd month is not really suitable for Sumo. Sumo didn't have the power of the moon again. The return star with the space attribute here is one of the 9 stars, and it is filled with space energy. It can be obtained as his base camp in the heaven. After Sumo asked a few more power lords about more specific situations, he already had a general plan. Then, Sumo's eyes turned to the central god city. Although his current warning distance is only 500 meters, Sumo's eyes fell on the protagonist Xiaogu accurately. Below, the protagonist Xiaogu, who is in a group of true gods, happens to be watching Sumo. Although the 2 sides were separated by a distance of dozens of kilometers, the eyes of gods were naturally different from those of ordinary people. At this look, the protagonist Xiaogu saw Sumo. This Super Go protagonist is instantly stiff. His face also turned white with a swoosh cold sweat, but also straight up. As a true god, I have almost 100% control over my body, and I won't sweat at all. But at this moment, the protagonist of Chao Go broke out in a cold sweat in an instant. It's over, he found me. The protagonist Chao Gu couldn't restrain himself at all. Suddenly became very nervous. In the past, when he was in the world of the gods, the mentality of being calm and going to the end has long been gone. This guy used to be so proud. Although he is stubborn, he thinks that all the protagonists are inferior to him. Who made him a legendary protagonist in the first place? His initial idea was to develop quietly, and then surprise everyone in one fell swoop. And he did. In the last month, he ushered in his brightest moment. Be the first to become a god, enter the heaven, and rush to the top of the protagonist list in one fell swoop, inspiring countless protagonists. Let all the protagonists finally see a glimmer of hope in the shadow of Sumo. However, it is estimated that all the protagonists can't imagine that he is not happy at all in the most glorious moment. No sense of achievement at all, even terrified. A dignified true god, who is in constant panic every day, living in fear. Uneasy for more than a month, until today. He was directly stimulated by Sumo's indifferent glance, which inspired all the fears in his heart. No matter how proud, no matter how pretentious, facing Sumo, who has become the master of power. This guy, now even has a feeling that he can't control his body at all. Then, what made the Supergo protagonist even more afraid happened. He sees. Sumo's figure moved and was flying towards the central god city. Sumo's gaze has become extremely dangerous, and the momentum is even more ready to go. Quite a gesture that is about to start. No, he wants to kill me forcibly. Supergo protagonist's face changes. Although, in the central god city, the Lord of Power cannot make a move. With the power of the Lord of Power, even if the opponent ignores this rule and forcibly kills one of his weakest true gods. Who else will sanction Sumo? Rules are made for the weak. As a traverser, the protagonist Chaogu knows this no longer. He is weak and has no support. Sumo really wants to kill him forcibly, and he has no way. Thinking of this, the protagonist Chaogu can't collapse anymore. Escape. There was only this word left in his mind. If you don't escape, are you staying here and being forcibly killed by Sumo? This guy actually has a means to escape from the central god city, but he didn't dare to use it before. Because he learned through a gold finger that when he entered the heaven, he was tracked by a powerful god. It's just that his strength is too weak, and he can't find where the mark is, let alone a way to expel it. Once he escapes from the central god city and the opponent chases after him, he will be finished. But now, he doesn't care so much anymore. The protagonist Chaogu said nothing, took out a special teleportation talisman, activated his divine power, and activated it directly. Next second. The protagonist Chaogu was carried by this special teleportation talisman and rushed out of the central god city in the blink of an eye, heading towards the edge of the heaven. Quick. The speed of this teleportation is fast enough, but the protagonist of Chaogu still feels that it is too slow. At this time, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. The transmission channel was distorted at once, and then, it was cut off abruptly. A big hand grabbed it violently. It's over. The face of Chao Go's protagonist showed despair, and the opponent was so strong that even his life-saving trump card could be directly reversed. Immediately after, that teleportation channel, together with this Super Go protagonist, was suddenly annihilated. This Super Go protagonist, who has been hiding for several months, became a god at the fastest speed, and rushed to the top of the protagonist list. Just like this, he was easily obliterated by Sumo. There is not much difference between this guy running away and not running away. Even if he didn't escape, he continued to hide in the central city. With Sumo's current strength and status, there were many ways to kill him. It's easy to say. When the protagonist Chaogu was killed, his name on the leaderboard immediately turned gray. On top, there is also a red fork. Although the leaderboard is updated once a month, when someone on the leaderboard dies, their names will naturally turn gray. Huh. Why is the ranger's name grayed out? As soon as his name was gray, a protagonist just happened to see it. This protagonist is a silver-level protagonist. On the day when the general rankings came out, the most people viewed and discussed. Almost all the protagonists and villains will take a look. Look at the new month, what protagonist or villain emerges. This month, it is already the 10th month. Lots of protagonists and villains, all developed. There will be some changes in the rankings every month. For example, some protagonists or villains who did not show up in the past and did not show water suddenly rushed to the rankings. It is not uncommon to even be in the top 10 at once. The identities of these protagonists and villains are also very important to other protagonists or villains. What if the opponent's sphere of influence is not far from you? Then you have to avoid each other. After the first day, fewer people check the leaderboard in the following days. It is only refreshed once a month. Who has nothing to watch? However, at the end of the month, especially the last days of the month, there will still be some protagonists or villains to take a look and record this month's leaderboard, so that after the leaderboard is refreshed, it can be compared with the previous one. Now, there are only 2 days until the end of the month. The silver protagonist was just checking the leaderboard. I just saw that on the leaderboard, the name of the protagonist of Chaogu was grayed out. Chaogu's protagonist's nickname is Ranger, and his god's name is the god of howling wind. Now, all his information is grayed out. There is also a big red cross on the avatar. When the silver protagonist first saw it, he hadn't reacted. But soon, he realized what it meant. The expression on his face suddenly changed. He died? The silver protagonist realizes this. I went, and he became a god, but he actually died? The silver protagonist was shocked. Chaogu's protagonist becomes a god, which is not a small encouragement to the protagonists. Let the protagonists see hope. Recently, it is said that there are quite a few protagonists who have become demigods and are ready to become gods. Becoming a god is also the ultimate dream of all the protagonists. The ultimate yearning. Who doesn't want to be a powerful and immortal god? However, now, the first protagonist who became a god, also rushed to the first Super Go protagonist on the protagonist rankings, and actually, hung up. Hanging in the sky. The silver protagonist suddenly realized. This incident, I am afraid, will cause an earthquake in the protagonist group. Not only in the protagonist group, but also in the villains, it will cause an earthquake. It must be the Earl of the Blackstone land that killed him. The silver protagonist thought. There is no second possibility. The Earl of the Blackstone territory only became a god less than 2 months before him, and he actually killed him. How is it possible? Isn't it possible that in the city of God, even the Lord of Power can't do it? This silver protagonist does not know how the Supergo protagonist died. It is also unclear what happened in the heaven. As he thought about it, since the protagonist Chao Go can live for so long, the first person to become a god must not be a reckless one. If the Earl of Moishi territory is stronger, the protagonist of Chaogu will definitely choose to hide in the city of God. Therefore, the protagonist of Chaogu hangs up like this time, but it is very strange. He quickly spread the news. As he spreads, soon, a large number of protagonists knew about it. The news spread too quickly. Not long after, the forum and the protagonist group were filled with news of this incident. What? The Ranger is dead. F*K. My god, he has become a god. How could he hang up? It must be the Earl of the Moishi land. It can only be him. Mom. Is the Earl of Mo Shilling so powerful? He just became a god more than a month in advance. Even if he is a lower god, and the Ranger is hiding in the city of God, he has no way to do it. Who knows what's going on, but it's a fact that the Ranger hangs up. The worst situation has come, and the Earl of the Blackstone country will probably block our path to becoming a god. Gone. Even the leading protagonist of the leaderboard has been killed. What way do we have to survive? After the news was spread out, it was known by a large number of protagonists. The protagonists were all shocked. The protagonist who first became a god actually died. How not to surprise them? At the same time, they are still a little confused. I don't know why the protagonist of Chaogu hangs up and how he died. On the protagonist forum, there are also speculations about this matter. Some people think that it is possible that Sumo used some means to deceive the Ranger out of the city and kill him. Some people also think that it is possible that the Ranger himself was careless and left the city of God. There are also people who think that Sumo may have used some tricks to kill the Ranger with the help of some great power. All kinds of wild guesses, but none of these guesses have guessed the truth. After all, the truth is still too amazing. Although I didn't guess the truth, this incident had a huge impact on the protagonists. The protagonists who had already seen hope and worked hard one by one, wanting to become gods, found it impressively. The hope they saw dashed again. Sumo's shadow shrouded again. It made many protagonists feel breathless again. In my heart, I became uneasy again. Haha, let you blacken not be blacken, I have become a demigod after blacken. There is also the main character of Blacken, who is laughing out there. After each protagonist blacken, there will be some changes. In general, these protagonists have grown faster after blacken. Especially some bronze level protagonists, after blacken, the upper limit of growth is also much higher. After many protagonists blacken, growth has become faster. Soon, not only did the protagonist forum spread the news. On the villain forum, this news also spread all over the place. All the villains also know about the death of the protagonist Chaogu. This protagonist has become a god, still can't beat him? The Earl of Moishi Land became a god for nearly 2 months, so he has a certain first mover advantage. However, I don't understand, if the Ranger stayed in the City of God, how did the Earl of Moishi Land kill each other? Looking at it like this, I feel that the Earl of the Blackstone Territory is likely to become a world-class villain this month, and I don't know what his strength is. We have to adjust our strategy. I suggest Blacken. The Earl of Moishi Land should have a certain power in the heaven. We have little chance of winning if we enter the heaven. Don't worry. Wait for this month's ranking list to come out first. A very high-level villain group is also discussing this matter. These villains were also shocked one by one, but they were high-ranking villains, and their performance in the group was not too flustered. As for the ordinary villains and protagonists, one by one is quite uneasy and flustered. Many of the protagonists and villains who were not prepared for Blacken have Blacken's intentions one by one. Some protagonists and villains have been directly Blacken. This time, although I don't know what amazing things happened in the heaven. But the fact that the protagonist of Chaogu died has already brought another wave of Blacken. You killed an epic protagonist and gained 500,000 villains in luck. You triggered 62 times the crit, got 31 million villain value, luck value. In the heaven, Su Mo looked at the villain panel. After the crit talent has been upgraded to the Yao Shi level, the crit is not normal. With his luck, even the Harvest of Goldfinger can basically maintain a critical strike of more than 50 times. This time, a 62 times crit hit directly. An epic protagonist who actually hit 31 million villains. If it goes on like this, Su Mo will kill another epic protagonist, and he will be able to have a second world-class Goldfinger. Sure enough, after the Goldfinger level was raised, the development behind it is like a snowball. Roll bigger and bigger. Those who develop slowly, the distance behind them is getting bigger and bigger. Su Mo looked at the Goldfinger of the protagonist Chaogu. This guy has 4 gold fingers, 1 epic, 2 legendary, and 1 gold. Epic is his gold finger, an idler system. This system is somewhat similar to lying to become stronger, but it is not the same. This system is very suitable for the protagonist of Chaogu, not only the type of the system, but also the rewards of the system, which are tailored for him. The protagonist's gold finger, the powerful place is here, the type and reward are the most suitable for these protagonists. The gold finger of the protagonist of Chaogu is similar to that. As long as he eats, sleeps, reads, and anything, he can become stronger. Traveling to the mainland and the like can also make him stronger. No wonder he named himself the Ranger. In short, it is a system that rewards incomparably hard work. He also has a legendary boost, a legendary full magic talent, and a gold level hint system. This prompt system is somewhat similar to the success rate system, but even more powerful. For example, where there is danger, this prompt system will prompt, but it is also subject to the level. This system gets more detailed information than the success rate system. But in terms of the accuracy of single information, it is not as powerful as the success rate system. Moreover, this system can be integrated with the success rate system. After the fusion, the reminder system is the main one. The gold fingers of the protagonist Chaogu are all good, and Su Mo has included all of them except all magic talents. Then, Su Mo didn't keep the villain value. Instead, the epic reminder system, soft meal system, location check-in system, work check-in system, evolution system, and Shenhao system have been raised to the mythical level in one fell swoop. Then several legendary gold fingers, such as the legendary ring, the voice system, and the lottery system, have been raised to the epic level. After this wave of upgrades is completed, Su Mo has 11 mythical gold fingers. This is simply a super luxurious lineup. Your reward has been made up, and you have obtained 1 copy of the Upper God's profound meaning. Your reward has been supplemented, you have obtained Superior Divine Power 1, and you can choose your own attributes. As soon as it was upgraded, several previous white bars broke gold finger, such as the soft meal system, the location check-in system, and the work check-in system, and they began to frantically make up for the previous white bars. Myth level gold finger, strictly speaking, the corresponding upper limit of power is still at the median level. At the mythical level, this level is sometimes blurred. Like eating a soft meal system, you can make up for a reward that helps to break through the upper gods. Although there is only 1 serving, it is very good. If it corresponds strictly according to the level, the mythical level also corresponds to the middle god, and the Yaoshi level corresponds to the upper god. But at the mythical level, the boundary itself is blurred a bit. Like Su Mo's crit talent, purely according to the corresponding level, it is impossible to gain crit power level. But it just can. However, the crit multiplier is generally low. If it is the harvest of ordinary gods, it can crit hundreds of times, even up to 200 times. But the harvest of power level is only a few times or 10 times. Here are some of the differences brought about by the difference in Goldfinger. In addition, this level does not necessarily set the upper limit of power. Bronze rank generally corresponds to the upper limit of power as legendary rank. But with bronze level Goldfinger, it is still possible to become a god, but the speed is slower. Different Goldfingers are different. For example, the magical talent of bronze level, as long as he doesn't die, he can become a god 100%. Because this changes the base of one of the protagonists, increasing their gains. A bronze level magical talent is incredible in the world of gods. Standard Genius Magician. It's just that the multiples of increasing the harvest are smaller, not as fast as silver and gold. After this wave of Sumo's large number of gold fingers has risen to the mythical level, for Sumo, using these gold fingers to train his subordinates is even more powerful. Even helped the 7 goddesses of the moon, in the abyss. Needless to say, with the Krypton gold system in place, the strength of the succubuses increased very quickly. The other gold fingers, Sumo is going to blacken one more, and then leave a few in the heaven to cultivate some gods who are completely loyal to themselves. This way, once Sumo is ready to build a pantheon, it's easier than other gods. His divine system will also be more powerful. Soon, the gold fingers of several filler strips were swept away again. This time, due to the higher level of strength, the white bars were filled up a lot. But still not complete. White bars are destined to be endless. Because Sumo's own strength has grown, the level of gods he will contact in the future will be higher. Especially the achievement system. This system is too easy for Sumo to use to earn achievement points. Mo. What happened just now? The voice of the Lord of Storms sounded. She was still wondering, how did Sumo suddenly take action just now? To deal with, it seems to be a pitifully weak god. Well, the protagonist Chaogu is indeed pitifully weak in the eyes of the Lord of Storms. Just found a little ant who used to provoke me. Sumo said lightly. As a demon god, Sumo doesn't mind impressing others with the impression that he will be punished. Generous is not a good quality for a demon god. In this way, it also saves Sumo explaining so much. Hearing Sumo say this, the Lord of the Storm did not ask any further questions, and the other lords of power did not care. If there is a real god or the like to provoke their authority, they don't mind trampling each other to death. Of course, in the realm of heaven, there is no such fool as a true god. The true god is the weakest god in the heaven. Dare to provoke the master of power? Do you think your life is too long? But Sumo is different here, because Sumo grows too fast, so he was provoked before. Maybe it's normal. Just a small thing. The Lord of Other Powers did not ask much. Immediately afterwards, more gods came. Congratulations to Sumo. Sumo did not return to the 3rd month until the sun came out again. This time, he did create a celestial record. It only took 18 hours to become the Lord of Power. This record is probably unprecedented, not before. In the future, I am afraid not. Not even other Goldfinger protagonists. Because Sumo doesn't agree. In the heavenly world, this news was thoroughly spread out. In a short time, the entire heavenly realm knew that a new heavenly realm boss appeared in the heavenly realm. A new Lord of Power. Many gods are already preparing congratulations, and they are thinking of coming to congratulate when Sumo holds a celebration. Chenyue, this is for you. Sheui, this is yours. On the 3rd month, Sumo took out some things and gave them to the goddess of the morning moon and the goddess of the sun moon respectively. They have not yet become the upper god. Wow, Mo, these things are too powerful. The morning moon goddess exclaimed. Look into Sumo's eyes, sparkling. Mo, are you going to return to Shushing next? The dark moon goddess asked. Sumo said. Yes, dark moon, you continue to pay attention to the changes in the central god city, and the new gods that come will be watched. It is good. The dark moon goddess nodded. This evening, Sumo once again spent in the kingdom of the dark moon goddess. The next morning, Sumo set off. Ink. When he came to the edge of the heaven, a voice sounded. Sumo saw that the Lord of the Storm and the Lord of Ice had both appeared. This time, the Lord of the Storm took the initiative to tell Ying that he wanted to accompany Sumo to find Guishu Shing. Sumo did not refuse. The main reason is that this time he is going to ask the Lord of the Storm some questions. Unexpectedly, the Lord of Ice also came. Mo, Han Bing also wants to go and see. The place where Guishu Shing is located is not small. One more person, one more force. Lord of the Storm. Okay, Sumo agreed. Let's go. This way, Lord of the Storm. After speaking, she was heading to lead the way. Sumo followed with the Lord of Ice. Here, it is already the edge of the heaven. This world, the world of gods, is incomparably huge, and the heavens are also boundless. Here, it cannot be regarded as the real edge of the heaven. It's just that from here, you can leave the heaven and enter the outer space. The outer space is not fun, dead, cold, and a forbidden area of a life. Some dangerous places are located in outer space. Inside, there may be some ancient and evil gods, or some evil creatures hidden inside. In addition, it is also possible to encounter demons. Some demon gods will also explore in the outer space. The abyss and ravines are also part of the outer space. In short, the outer space can be understood as the space outside the heaven. It is even possible to regard the entire abyss as part of outer space. The ordinary danger inside is actually nothing to a powerful god. To the Lord of Power, most dangers are not dangerous. But Guishu Star still has some differences. This is one of the 9 stars. Even the powerhouses at the peak of the law once fell on it inexplicably. There are still some dangers in there. The 3 of them walked all the way, and soon entered the outer space, moving fast in the possible direction of Guishu Xing. Should be here. Sumo points in one direction. This is known through the prompt system. This system integrates the success rate system, and after rising to the mythical level, it is not too convenient to use it to find things. The Lord of the Storm thought that Sumo was perceived by the laws of space, and did not ask any further questions. The 3 flew all the way. Lord of the Storm, I don't know, have you ever heard of a name? After leaving the heavenly world, Sumo asked. Mo, you can call me Nina in the future, Lord of the Storm. After speaking, she asked again, what's the name? Anastasia. Sumo said, Anastasia? This name made the Lord of Storm's expression move. The face of the Lord of Frost also changed. Seeing the change in their faces, Sumo knew that they should have known. Anastasia's spiritual sense. Sumo has been getting it for a long time, and recently, she is still in a state of daze. Sumo is still a little curious about her identity. Why did it fall, and the body was suppressed in the blood moon? Heard about it. Lord of the Storm. Sumo looked at her. There was a trace of reminiscence in the eyes of the Lord of the Storm. In the past, she was still my idol, and what I always wanted to be was a powerful god like her. Oh. Sumo snorted. The Lord of the Storm looked at Sumo and said, Anastasia used to be the god closest to the supreme throne. She was in charge of order, and possessed an immortal body of order. Unless the whole world is in chaos and order does not exist, otherwise, no one can't destroy her body. The closest god to the supreme throne. Sumo didn't expect that Anastasia's origins were somewhat surprising. Not an ordinary giant-level existence. Rather, it was once an existence that was closest to the supreme throne. However, Anastasia has fallen into the war with the abyss 1,000 years ago, and it seems that even the remnants have not escaped. 1,000 years have passed, and there is no sign of a comeback. She should be completely lost. The Lord of the Storm said again. Sumo gave an "oh" and asked, how did she fall so powerful? The Lord of Storm shook his head. I don't know, I was not the Lord of Power at that time. In short, I fell, and no one knows the reason. Sumo made another "oh" sound. The Lord of Storms doesn't know much. But I finally figured out Anastasia's identity. The Lord of the Storm looked at Sumo curiously. Mo, why did you think of asking her? Sumo said, I just saw her name in a book, so I wanted to ask. Oh, the Lord of Storms didn't think much of it. The 3 continued on. Be careful, after going deep into the outer space, I finally encountered an evil creature that attacked, and was directly frozen into an ice sculpture that will not melt for 10,000 years by the Lord of Ice. The danger in the outer space is not dangerous to most of the 3 power lords. On the contrary, the Lord of the 3 powers is the greatest danger. The speed of the Lord of Power is naturally very fast. But under the prompt of the prompt system, it still took a day to finally find the location of Guishu Xing. It should be here, we can't see it. The Lord of the Storm felt a slight fluctuation, but he did not see Guishu Xing. As a space god star, Guishu Xing is in a stealth state even in motion, and it is difficult to find a god who is not good at space. Sumo has seen it. At the same time, Sumo also saw a very interesting message through the prompt system. Dangerous reminder. The remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space is waiting for you on Guishu Xingxing, trying to seize your body and replace you. The ancestor of time and space. Sumo is no stranger to these 4 words. The Lord of Flame's brain supplement to him is the reincarnation of the ancestor of time and space. Sumo thought that this guy had perished, but he didn't expect that there are still remnants of souls left. Speaking of which, this ancestor of time and space has also been exposed to a trace of the power of time, right? The ancestor of time and space, in the era of the Lord of Flames, was extremely powerful. Its status in that era was comparable to that of today's celestial giants. No, even higher. Compared with Anastasia when she didn't fall, I'm afraid it's even slightly better. According to Sumo's recent understanding, the ancestor of time and space is an innate deity, who is a god at birth. He is also a god who controls time and space at the same time. The major is, naturally, space. But the ancestor of time and space is also said to have mastered a bit of the power of time. Time is a taboo field, and there are too few gods who dare to touch it. Below the power, whoever touches will die. Above power, whoever touches is disabled. Even the celestial giants would not rashly touch the time domain. In the long history, there are very few gods who really touch the power of time. The ancestor of time and space is one. As for why the ancestor of time and space fell, it seems to be related to the power of time. The ancestor of time, the master of space, also has a trace of the power of time. In his era, it can be called an invincible existence. This kind of existence, the difficulty of falling is too great. As far as Sumo understands, the other party seems to be trying to master more power of time, trying to control time in one fell swoop, but encountered a terrible backlash. Two specific details, Sumo doesn't know. So, the remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space, I am afraid that it has always been on the Guishu star. Sumo thought. As one of the 9 stars, Guishu Xing is also a high-ranking space system god star among the 9 stars. For the ancestor of time and space, it is naturally very beneficial to his recovery. This guy's remnant soul is very likely to stay here forever. Silently recovering. Countless years have passed, and the remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space is probably already very strong. Sumo guessed that the peak of the law was still a powerhouse who mastered the laws of space. When he tried to become the master of the returning star, he was likely to be killed by the ancestor of space and time. Likely so. Otherwise, a peak powerhouse mastering the laws of space would not be able to die so easily. Such powerhouses are also very likely to have power. Its power is equivalent to the 4 quasi-power masters who came to snipe Sumo. Such powerhouses are vulnerable to the unreasonable existence of Sumo. Ordinary dangers can't help them at all. Even if other power lords take action in person, they can retreat completely. The space system law powerhouse is itself the law powerhouse with the strongest life-saving ability. Even if you can't beat it, don't run away too much. Say nothing else. The Lord of Storms and the Lord of Ice may not be able to leave behind a peak powerhouse of space law. But the other party has fallen to the returning star. 100% is a good thing done by the ancestors of time and space. Mo, have you found the entrance to Guishu Xing? Beside him, the voice of the Lord of the Storm rang out. As the distance got closer, the Lord of the Storm also knew through some subtle fluctuations that the returning ruin star was very likely nearby. But she couldn't find Guishu Xing. What she builds is not space. This way, Nina, Frost, let's play a game. Sumo flew to the position of the returning star, said. What game? The Lord of the Storm asked curiously. Catch the turtle in the urn, Sumo said lightly. At this time, in the void, a huge divine star is shuttled. This divine star is the return star. Guishu star is different from other divine stars. The other gods are all running outside. Only the Guishu Xing is sometimes displayed, and sometimes it enters the space and travels through it. Only Guishu Xing can do this, because this is itself a divine star of the space system. Its trajectory is also erratic. No one can be sure of its exact trajectory. Sometimes, it may even enter the abyss, and then break out of the abyss. Except for the extremely powerful space law powerhouse, no one can capture its trajectory. If the strength is not strong enough, if you find it, it will not affect it. It is not easy to become the Star Master of the Ruins. Even if no one comes to stop you, becoming the Star Lord of the Ruins is quite difficult in itself. For a long time, Guishu Xing was hidden in space, and to the heavenly world, Guishu Xing seemed to have lost contact. The speed of the returning star is very fast, but if you look closely, after Sumo brought the Lord of the Storm and the others to find here, the speed of the returning star is slowing down. It seems, for fear that Sumo can't find the same. Guishu star is filled with rich space energy. Above, you can also see some extremely evil creatures, absorbing space energy there. Some of these creatures came from outside the sky, some from the abyss, and they were all creatures with space skills. To be able to enter Guishu star, the strength of these creatures is not weak. And in the dark, where no one knows, a remnant that is almost transparent, even if it stands in front of you, you can't find it is hiding there. This remnant soul does not look strong, it is extremely weak. But its strength is not as simple as it seems. The other party is the ancestor of time and space. An ancient superpower. Even the Lord of Flames is ashamed of existence. At this time, The remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space was hidden there, seemingly in a daze. He minimized his own energy fluctuations. On the one hand, this is to save power, and on the other hand, it is also to better hide himself. He came. The remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space finally raised his eyes. Sensing the arrival of Sumo. If I can take away his body, I can use my rebirth to return to the peak, and even go further. The remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space. In front of him, there are still many bones. These bones are the gods who once entered Guishu Star, but the other party's body is too weak. Even the former quasi-power master of the space system who was only one step away from entering the power level could not carry his remnant soul at all. This remnant of his soul is not a complete soul. Countless years have passed, and his remnant soul is still a remnant soul. After devouring the soul of the quasi-powerful lord, his remnant soul recovered a little. But it is still far from complete recovery. Last time, he was going to seize the body of the quasi-powerful lord, the other's divine body, which also happened to be the space divine body. Just right for him. This is also the reason why he hid in the returning star, not only to recover faster, but also to hunt the gods of the heavens to recover himself. But last time, there was an accident. The space divine body of the quasi-powerful lord was unable to carry his remnant soul. A remnant soul directly disintegrated the space god body of a quasi-power master, leaving only a white bone. The main reason for this is that, in this remnant of his soul, there is a terrifying power of time. This power of time can be said that the ancestor of time took his life in exchange for it. Because of him back then, it was precisely because of this power of time that he fell. Compared with the past, the power of time he has mastered is much more. He will not give up this power of time. Once he finds a suitable body that can carry this power of time and rebirth, he is sure that in this era, he will return to the peak, and even officially enter the realm of time. Although control of time power and the like is still unrealistic. In the realm of time, whether there is power or not is an unknown number. This field is completely different from all other fields. But the remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space has a certain degree of certainty. With this power of time, he will go further, ascend to the supreme throne of this era, and become the master of the world. As an existence of the ancient super power level, he also has chess pieces in the heaven. The attention to Sumo has already begun. Sumo's toughness made him see hope. Such a powerful Sumo might be able to carry that power of time. At that time, as long as he successfully destroys Sumo's soul and takes over Sumo's body, he will be able to turn this era into his own era again. No matter whether you are a god in the heavens or a demon in the abyss, you will all surrender to the ancestor of his time and space. Therefore, the ancestor of time and space has been waiting for Sumo on Guishu Xingxing for a long time. He didn't care. After all, he now has only one remnant soul left. And Sumo is so tough. He is here, and he has already set up a net, waiting for Sumo to be fooled. In his opinion, it is impossible for Sumo to know of his existence. Boom. At this moment, space fluctuations coming. The ancestor of time and space noticed it. Sumo has come to and successfully found the return star. It seems that Sumo is ready to shake out the return star. Really. In the space where Guishu Xing was, all of a sudden came 10,000 golden lights. Immediately afterwards, this extremely huge space star was forcibly shaken out by Sumo. Not only was it shaken out, but under Sumo's terrifying strength, Guishu Xing, who had been traveling through space, also stopped abruptly. Was directly stopped by Sumo. The ancestor of time and space did not make any movements, and hid there silently, waiting for Sumo to enter the returning star. Don't start it. Once activated, he will deliver a fatal blow to Sumo. One click to solve the problem. Such a powerful Sumo also makes the ancestors of time and space more and more happy. The stronger the better, anyway, everything in Sumo will be his. He waited patiently. The golden light dissipated. But Sumo didn't come in. The time and space ancestor still did not have any action. The ancestor of Sumo also did not show up. Time passed little by little. Soon, more than half an hour passed, and Sumo still didn't move. The time and space ancestors began to feel wrong, but did not think more. In his opinion, how could Sumo have found him? No one even knows about his existence in the entire heaven now. In his mind, it might be because Sumo himself was wary of the returning star. In this way, after another half an hour, Sumo still did not move. The ancestor of time and space has maintained enough patience, and he has been dormant for countless years, and his patience is too good. Let's start. At this time, Sumo's voice sounded. Immediately after, the surroundings of Guishu Xing were shocked. A huge array of gods takes shape in an instant. Not only that, at the moment when the formation of the God formation, the three scepters were driven at once. Space, storm, ice. The power of the three powers suddenly fell from the height of panic. The place where the ancestors of time and space hid was covered by the attacks of the three masters of power with full firepower in an instant. How is it possible? How did he find me? The ancestor of time and space, who suffered a terrible blow, was suddenly stunned. The reason why the ancestor of time and space is so ignorant is that he has no idea how Su Mo knew of his existence. It hit him so precisely, he hides not so tightly. For countless years, he has been hiding in the returning star. In heaven, no one knows. But when Su Mo came, as if he knew where he was, he attacked him exactly. Because of being too confident in himself, when Su Mo suddenly hit him, the ancestor of time and space was so ignorant. If you are a little confused, but as a once powerful ancient power, even if there is only one remnant soul left, the ancestor of time and space is not panic. As soon as his spiritual sense moved, he saw that Guishu Xing suddenly lit up. Most of the returning stars were driven by him. This guy, even if only the remnant soul is left, is about to control the Guishu star, which is equivalent to most of the Guishu star lord. With his movements, a dense space appeared in front of him. These spaces are numerous and infinite. Put an ordinary person in each level of space, and this ordinary person will not be able to walk from one end of the space to the other when he is born, until he grows old and dies. After trapping people in such a space, the controller of the space can directly flatten the space. Turn this space into a two-dimensional plane. Its effect is equivalent to the two-way park in science fiction. Directly dies a space. Not only that, the controller of the space can even make this space one-dimensional and turn it into a point. Or simply annihilate the entire space. The people in the space will also be annihilated with the space. I saw that in the attack of the Lord of Storms and Lord of Ice's driving power, these spaces are rapidly shattering. Their strength is not weak. Storms and ice filled the entire sky for a while. It looks devastated. Under the attack of the Lord of Ice, freezing thousands of miles and the like, it is only a side effect. Even if she doesn't master many space laws, under the terrifying power of ice power, even space can freeze for you. It is very difficult for some weak space law powerhouses to travel through space or drive the power of space law. The space is frozen for you at the level of law, how do you drive it? In contrast, Stormlord's attack is more destructive. The terrifying storm swept over, and the space was shattered like a wall swept over by a tornado. Under their attack, the space created by the ancestors of time and space drives the returning star, and the speed of shattering is not ordinary. At the same time, Su Mo's attack comes. As soon as Su Mo made his move, he did his best. This wave, he will not let go. The ancestor of time is a remnant soul, and he was also a superboss in the past, a terrifying existence that is a bit stronger than the giant. A thin dead camel is bigger than a horse, and Su Mo will naturally not take it lightly when dealing with such an existence. I saw an extremely terrifying void storm, already formed, rushing towards the ancestor of time and space. At the same time, Su Mo's golden scepter emits a terrifying light, and the space power is fully driven, and the law level has already set off a stormy wave. Under the suppression of space power, it can be seen that even Guishu Xingxing is still dark. There is also a golden light, slashing towards the ancestor of time and space. This trick is a trick created by Su Mo after taking control of the space power. Su Mo named it Void Slash. Similar to Dimension Slash, you can even cut the space in half for you. The remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space had a strong face, and under the terrible attack of Su Mo and the two Power Masters, he had already fallen into a disadvantage. The various means of preparation are rapidly being broken. Immediately, the attack of Su Mo and the two Lords of Power is coming. Even if he drives Guishu Xing, it is difficult to resist. After all, he is a remnant. Moreover, he is not the official returning Market Star Lord. Even if he has obtained most of the control of Guishu Star by virtue of his dormancy on Guishu Star for countless years, it is completely incomparable with the official Guishu Star Lord. With a remnant soul, he wanted to become the official returning Ruin Star Lord, which was not too difficult. The hand of the ancestor of time and space moved again, and the brightness of the returning star also increased again. I saw that the attacks from the Lord of Storms and the Lord of Ice were being rapidly diverted by the returning star. This is a very simple means of the space department. Space transfer. Directly transfer your attack to other places. Of course, this is not all attacks can be diverted. It is simply unrealistic for a common law powerhouse to want to divert the attack of the Lord of Power. The same means, different people use, the power may be the difference between 1 and 100 million. At this time, The space-time ancestors used this space transfer with the help of Guishu Star, which is very powerful. A large number of attacks by the Lord of Storms and Lord of Ice have been diverted. Other attacks were blocked by layer attacks. But this time, sudden, in the void, there seems to be the sound of landslides and tsunamis. Sumo's attack has officially arrived. Under the terrifying power of Void Slash, the entire Guishu Star had a feeling of being split open. This blow cannot be transferred at all. Led by the Void Slash, Sumo's attack at the law level swept across the past with the help of the Void Storm. Then I saw that the countless spaces created by the ancestor of time and space were like eggshells, broken layer by layer. The face of the Lord of Time and Space was extremely gloomy. Sumo is stronger than he expected. There are not many means that he can use now, but every means is extremely powerful. Last time, after devouring the soul of the quasi-powerful lord, he also regained more strength. An ordinary master of power, who came to Guishu Shing alone, would have to explain it here. And if there is no Sumo, even the Lord of Storms and Lord of Ice can't do anything about him. He is also sure to escape with the return of the star, and even launch a counterattack to let the Lord of the Storm and the Lord of Ice escape. But Sumo is far more than the average power lord. Seeing the arrival of Sumo's terrifying attack, the remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space moved. In the next second, a strange force was driven by him. We'll see. Sumo's attack suddenly became very slow in his field of vision. Power level attacks, in terms of speed, are extremely fast. Almost in the blink of an eye. However, now, in the eyes of the ancestors of time and space, Sumo's attack has suddenly slowed down many times. In the eyes of Sumo and the Lord of Storms, the movements of the ancestors of time and space seem to speed up. This change, for Sumo and the Lord of the Storm, took less than a second. But in this second, the time and space ancestors shot one after another, and finally blocked all Sumo's attacks. Not only that, but he also launched a counterattack. Be careful, Sumo has noticed the problem. His light and dark power was fully driven, and with a single blow, the attack of the ancestor of time and space was broken. Meanwhile, Sumo's chaotic power is ready to drive. The Lord of Storms and Lord of Ice are still attacking continuously, and Sumo is also constantly attacking. Their attack, combined with Sumo's attack, this remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space, there is no way to block it at the same time. However, every time the space-time ancestor was about to be unstoppable, he would drive that strange power. Once driven, the ancestor of time and space seems to have entered a slower time period, and has more time to block the attacks of Sumo and the two power lords. The power of time. In Sumo's mind, these four words appeared. Because the Lord of Storms and Lord of Ice still do not know the true identity of the ancestors of time and space, they have not thought about it in this regard. I just feel that the ancestors of time and space are very difficult. They were also very surprised. I don't understand at all why such a powerful existence is hidden on Guishu Star. But Sumo already knew. This is the power of time mastered by the ancestors of time and space. The opponent's power of time seems to have some limitations when it is used. The time for each cast is limited, but every time it is displayed, it is very powerful. Achieved an effect similar to time delay. In other words, the time-space ancestor's own time has slowed down, thus, he has more time to deal with Sumo's attack. If it weren't for Sumo's first mover advantage, he could only passively defend against the ancestors of time and space. If he took the initiative to attack, it would be even more difficult to deal with. Nina, Frost, don't give him a chance to breathe. Sumo said. The power of time is really strong, but the stronger it is, the more it fits Sumo's intentions. He still has enough trump cards to deal with the attacks of the ancestors of time and space, and there are probably a lot of trump cards of the ancestors of time and space. So, taking advantage of the upper hand now, Sumo will squeeze out the trump card of the ancestor of time and space, and then defeat it in one fell swoop. The battle continues. The ancestor of time and space did not use other means, and has been using time slowly to deal with the three of Sumo. This fight took most of the day. From day to night, and then to the next morning. This morning, the battle at Guishu Shing was extremely fierce, and in the world of gods, there were already countless protagonists and villains waiting. Because, this morning is the time to refresh the leaderboard. The death of the protagonist Xiao Go shocked all the protagonists and villains. They all waited and wanted to see how Sumo changed this month. Maybe some clues can be seen. So, early on, many protagonists and villains stayed in front of the rankings. Arrived at 8 o'clock. The leaderboard is refreshed on time. All the protagonists and villains look at the villain leaderboard for the first time. This look. The protagonists and villains all took a deep breath. Because, on the villain rankings, Sumo's villain level has reached the level of glory. God, he has reached the world-class level. 5 million villains worth. How did he do it? Hey, we're dead. All the protagonists and villains were shocked. Although after Sumo's wave of cleanups, many people speculated that Sumo might have become a world class, but it was not confirmed after all. Now, they are confirmed. Mom, how can this make us live? It's over, it's over. Many protagonists are frowning one by one. Go and see, the luck of the sky has become a myth. At this time, a protagonist shouted. A large number of protagonists flocked to the protagonist leaderboard. There is also a protagonist. Curiously looking at the description behind Sumo, he noticed the change of Sumo's identity. From eternal god to eternal lord. At this stage, there is a lot of knowledge about some levels of gods, names, etc., the protagonists and villains. However, not everyone understands it very well. For example, the protagonist does not know what the nuances of this word mean. The protagonist who was the first to discover Sumo is still wondering there. The other protagonists and villains have already rushed to the protagonist rankings. I saw that on the list of protagonists, the first place once again changed from the protagonist of Chaogu to Tien Luck. Tien Luck occupied the first place in the protagonist list for 8 months, and just last month, it was surpassed by the protagonist Chaogu. After the death of the protagonist Chaogu, this month, Tien was once again the number 1. Not only that, the protagonist level of Tianyan also moved from the epic level to the mythical level in one fell swoop. Become a mythical protagonist. When it was discovered that Tianyan had become a mythical protagonist, the protagonists were inspired again. Poor god. In the past few days, the Super Go protagonist who became a god first died. Then Sumo once again became a world class. These two things add up, and the pressure brought to the protagonists is not ordinary. The despair is already spreading. Fortunately, now, Tianyan has become a myth in one fell swoop. Although it is not comparable to Sumo's brilliant class, it also gives the protagonists some hope. At least, on the protagonist side, there is still a destiny to bear. Haha, sure enough, luck is still reliable. Myth level won't be too bad. I'm afraid Tianyan will also become a god, right? I suggest that the tycoon of Tianyan demonize and go to the abyss to become a demon god, don't go to the heaven. On the protagonist forum, the protagonists all discussed. Many protagonists are making plans for Tianyan, for fear that Tianyan will be killed by Sumo if he is not careful. The protagonists are so desperate. There are also villains who have reached mythical level. At this time, the protagonist has a new discovery. The other protagonists looked at them one after another, and saw that the villain, Skykilling, who had been ranked second in the villain list, had also become a mythical villain. That is to say, in this month, a mythical level has appeared in both the protagonist and the villain. Shadow, I know him, last month his actions were not small and he killed a lot of protagonists. I don't know why, obviously he is the villain, but I think it's a good thing. It's really a good thing, because we now have one of the biggest common enemies, that is the Earl of Moshi territory. They can rise against the trend, which shows that we still have hope against the Earl of Moshi territory. The protagonist and the villains were talking about it one after another. Now, the public section has become the most lively place. A large number of protagonists and villains like to discuss here. Since Sumo poses too much threat to all the protagonists and villains, in this public section, there are a lot less protagonists and villains on the line. They're not in the mood for laning. The protagonist and the villain each have a mythical level. Whether it is the protagonist or the villain, everyone thinks this is a good thing. Even the villains feel that it is a good thing to have a mythical protagonist. Because the opponent is stronger, maybe they can compete with Sumo and reduce the pressure. This month, in addition to the protagonist and the villain each having a mythical level, the level of the protagonist and the villain has been greatly improved. The top 10 protagonists have become epic protagonists except for Tianyan. The top 21 villains, except for Sumo and Tien, AA are all epic villains. The number of legendary protagonists and villains is even more. As for the gold level protagonists and villains, I don't know how many have appeared. Seeing the big changes in the leaderboard and the villain rankings, everyone has made great progress, and the haze in the hearts of the protagonists and villains has dissipated a little. We still have hope. That's right, no matter how strong the Earl of Mo Shilling is, there is only one person. How can he fight with so many of us? Everyone, Blacken, let's go into the abyss. A lot of people who go into the abyss grow up so fast. The protagonist and the villains discussed one by one. While they were talking, the protagonist who found out about Sumo's identity change talked about it in a group of protagonists. Brothers, have you noticed that the status of the Earl of Moishi Land has changed? The protagonist said. Identity change? I saw nothing changed before. A protagonist said immediately. Huh. It's really changed. He seemed to be the god of eternity before, but how did he become the lord of eternity now? A protagonist finds out. After the other protagonists heard about it, they also watched the villain rankings one by one. This look. These protagonists also discovered that Sumo's identity has changed from eternal god to eternal lord. No wonder they didn't see it before. Before, the fact that Sumo became a world class shocked them too much. In addition, the fact that Tianyan has become a myth has attracted their attention. In this case, with just one word change, there are really not many people they see. It has indeed changed, eternal lord. Who knows what the change of the word means? Isn't there a post on the forum about the level and title of the gods in the heavens? I'll look for it. In this protagonist group, the protagonists in it discussed. While a protagonist was talking, he had already found it on the forum. That post is very popular, and it is also in the Raiders area. Soon, the protagonist was found it. The protagonist looked at the post. After watching it for a while, the protagonist's complexion changed. Nothing's wrong, brothers. The protagonist said in the group. What's wrong? Some other protagonists asked. According to the statement in this post, the name of a god cannot be changed casually. Once it is determined, it cannot be changed unless the identity of the god has undergone tremendous changes. The protagonist learned science. Others have actually seen this thread before, but I don't remember the details very clearly. When you said that, I remembered it, as if to say that you have to reach a very powerful realm before you can be called Lord, right? A protagonist said immediately. Yes, those with the word Lord in the god's name can only be the Lord of Power. As for those Star Lords and Moon Lords, these are not God's names. The protagonist said. Lord of Power. What do you mean? The Earl of Moshiland has become the Lord of Power. How is this possible? He has only been a god for a few months. How can he become the Lord of Power so quickly? Immediately, the protagonist retorted. If it is interpreted according to the rules of God's name, I am afraid it is like this. After the god's name is determined, it can no longer be changed on its own. If the god's name changes, it can only be a change in power and identity. According to this rule, the Lord of Eternity also means that the Earl of Moshiland has become the Lord of Power. The protagonist analyzed. Impossible, absolutely impossible. I also don't think it's possible. Just becoming a god is also a true god. In a few months, the Earl of Moshiland will become a middle god, and it is unrealistic to be a high god, let alone the Master of Power. I just checked it out. It is said that the Lord of Power is a big boss in the heavens. There are only 20 or so Lords of Power in the entire heaven, and each of them is a terrifying existence. If the Earl of Moshi territory really wants to become the Lord of Power, that would be too much. It's unbelievable, it's impossible. Not surprisingly, in this group of protagonists, a large number of protagonists do not believe that Sumo is the Master of Power. The news spread quickly. Immediately, a large number of protagonists and villains noticed the change of Sumo's name. Eternal Lord. This is the name of God that can only be possessed by the Lord of Power, FCK, you won't tell me that he is the Lord of Power? Immediately, many protagonists and villains shouted. Who can tell me what level the Lord of Power is? True gods, lower, middle, and upper gods, the above are the powers of the law, and above the power of the law, is the Master of Power, and the power of the law can be called a hegemon, the Master of Power, in the entire heaven, can be said to be great dude, so you understand? Then the change of his divine name should be another meaning that we don't know. It is unlikely that he will become the Lord of Power. Yeah, I don't think it's possible. Aida is so far from the big spectrum of the world, how could he be the Master of Power now? Indeed, this is impossible no matter how you look at it, 100% is another meaning. You said, is it possible that he just entered a divine star called Eternal, so he is called the Lord of Eternity? There is a possibility, otherwise it is too buggy. Many of us are not even demigods. If he is the Master of Power, it is too fake. On the forum, the protagonists and villains stirred up. The meaning of the words, Eternal Lord, spread quickly. But after the spread, I believe that there are not many protagonists and villains in this layer of explanation. After all, it's still a little scary that Sumo is now the Master of Power. No matter how you look at it, it is impossible. Not many protagonists and villains believe it. The explanation they prefer to believe is that Sumo's Eternal Lord may be a change after occupying a divine star called Eternal. Although, even if Sumo occupies a divine star called Eternal, it should be called Eternal Star Lord instead of Eternal Lord. What's more, after becoming a god, the name displayed on the leaderboard is the god's name. Compared with the fact that Sumo is now the Master of Power, this explanation makes more sense. Lord of Power, these people really dare to think. Yeah. I guess the Earl of Moshiland is the most median god, and there is a possibility of a higher god, otherwise he won't be able to kill the ranger so easily. My next step is to become a false god, and I am still hesitating whether to enter the heaven or the abyss. It's not bad to enter the abyss and become a demon god, but if you enter the heaven, you have to be careful. In the group with a large number of gold-level protagonists, they are also chatting about this matter. This incident has attracted the attention of all the protagonists and villains. Everyone is discussing this. Oh, impossible. Many protagonists have directly denied this possibility. Not only the protagonist, but also the villains. Moreover, this time their denial is serious, not self-deception. Because they don't believe it in their hearts. At this time, a new message appeared. Immediately, everyone saw it. Because of the emergence of the first power level player, starting this month, the power rankings will be opened, and the power rankings will reward more protagonists and villains. Because of the emergence of the first power level player, starting this month, the power rankings will be opened, and the power rankings will reward more protagonists and villains. This message appeared on the panels of all protagonists and villains. As this confrontation game progresses, every 1 or 2 months, there will be some new changes. The changes here are basically caused by Sumo. For example, the record list at the beginning was drawn after Sumo's record broke 10. Blacken's option is basically because Sumo was the first to enter the heavenly realm. The new ranking list, the power ranking, is also the first one that Sumo has brought out after reaching the power level. This type of change should be enabled by all players, whoever has reached a certain level. Without Sumo, many changes would not have been opened so quickly. Especially this power ranking. It is the first player, and it will only be activated after reaching the power level. The reason why it is so late, it is estimated that once their respective strengths are announced, it will not be very beneficial to some protagonists and villains, and there will be more variables. The level of the protagonist and the villain does not refer to the specific strength. Like the protagonist level, only depends on the gold finger level. The level of the villain depends on the accumulated villain value. Everyone only knows the level, not its specific strength. According to the normal progress, I am afraid it will take at least 1 or 2 years, or even longer, before a player reaches the power level. Then open the power rankings. It's a pity that there is more Sumo bug. Then. This is only the 11th month, and the strength rankings have been opened. I go. The first power level player appears. Who can explain, what does this sentence mean? It should mean that the first Lord of Power appeared in the player. Hey. Don't scare me. I'm scared to death myself. F***ck, is he really the Lord of Power? Some protagonists and villains have been frightened when they saw this news. If they don't want to believe it, they can still understand this news. The first player of power level appears, power level player. What these words mean, except for those who are always reluctant to believe, and pretend not to understand, they can all understand. The first Lord of Power has appeared. Otherwise, why open the power rankings? Who is this Lord of Power? It's too obvious. It can only be the Eternal Lord. Some protagonists and villains have been silent, and opened the rankings without saying a word. As soon as this is opened, these protagonists and villains will see the leaderboard column, and there is an additional leaderboard. The protagonist list, the villain list, the record list, the luck list, and now, there is a strength list. Moreover, the strength list is also ranked first. The strength list is not divided into protagonists and villains. Some people have already clicked in. Inside, it has been refreshed. 100 more names. These people look directly at the first one. Phantom, Lord of Eternity, Lord of Might. This is the format of the power rankings. Corresponding to the above nickname, identity, strength, ranking. This ranking list only said that it was the Master of Power, but did not announce which department it belonged to, nor did it announce what power it held. At the same time, it is only a big realm. For example, if it is a lower god, it will not be announced whether it is in the early stage of the lower god, or the middle stage, or the peak. The difference here is still huge. When several lower gods join together in the early stage, they may not be able to deal with a peak lower god. The protagonists and villains don't have time to think about these details. They only saw those 4 words. In the strength column, the corresponding 4 words, Master of Power. How is this possible? When I saw these 4 words, it was no surprise that a large number of protagonists and villains immediately widened their eyes. The eyes of some protagonists and villains almost burst out. Lord of Power. F***ck. How could he get to the Lord of Power so soon? In a magnificent palace, an exclamation sounded. The one who exclaimed was this time, the second-ranked mythical villain, Killing the Sky. In the past 2 months, the big action of Killing the Sky has continued. With the help of the gold finger of the booster reward, he finally rose to the mythical level at the end of last month. His own strength has also reached the peak of a demigod. Exactly, after reaching the myth level, he can officially become a god. In the previous time, he also did not believe that Sumo has become the master of power. Until now. He saw this power ranking. See above, Sumo's strength. Lord of Power. Slaughter Tien couldn't believe his eyes. So much so that he blinked and blinked, rubbed and rubbed. However, it is not wrong. Moreover, he was not the only one who saw it, the other protagonists and villains also saw it. Can't be wrong. At this moment, even this ranked second, in the world of gods, can be called a heroic mythical villain, and his eyes are also bulging. The muscles on the face were frozen, and it was full of surprise. Even he is. The other protagonists and villains have naturally been shocked and don't know what to do. On the forum between the protagonist and the villain, it was rare that they all quieted down. For a long time, there have been no new posts on the protagonist and villain forums. Not only on the forum, but also in some protagonist groups, it's quiet. No one spoke, because everyone was shocked. If I were to shoot the expressions of the protagonists and villains now, it would be very exciting. Your Majesty, what's the matter with you? In a kingdom, the voice of an official rang out. Because His Majesty the King, who only ascended the throne last month, suddenly started to stay there in the early court. No, not just in a daze. His Majesty the King suddenly opened his mouth wider than a hippo's mouth. Inside, you can stuff a goose egg. A pair of eyes stared like a bull's eye, giving people a feeling that they were about to burst. On an old face, it is also full of shocking colors that are extremely thick. This made many officials and ministers below wonder, what did His Majesty see, and he was so shocked. These officials and ministers all looked in the direction where the king was looking, but there seemed to be nothing there. This king is also a protagonist, still a legendary protagonist. The kingdom where he is located is relatively large, which is close to the standard of a small empire, and there are quite a few villains in it. After fighting for a long time, he turned around in one fell swoop and eliminated all the villains. Mastered the power of this kingdom, but now, he was terrified. Lord of Power, in another palace, a protagonist suddenly stood up. Surprised many officials below. An official who was reporting the situation thought that his report had angered the other party, so he hurriedly knelt down. In this palace, officials and ministers also knelt down a lot. The protagonist's face also had a strong look of shock, and his mouth opened subconsciously. It can be seen that the surprise was heavy. However, the psychological quality of the protagonist is extremely high. Just a minute later, the protagonist sat down and forcibly calmed down. How could he become the Lord of Power so quickly? The shock in the protagonist's eyes was still so intense that he couldn't hide it at all. The plan has to be changed. If you want to enter the heaven, I am afraid you can only seek the help of the Holy Lord. With the protection of the Holy Lord, he will not dare to touch me. The protagonist thought silently about countermeasures. He is the luck of heaven in the Holy Court Empire. For a long time on the protagonist list, the first protagonist. On the protagonist and villain forum, several minutes passed before there was news again. And at the beginning of the news, there are a lot of exclamation marks. How is this possible? This FCK is not true, absolutely not. How could he become the master of power so quickly? This is unscientific. On the forum, a lot of shocking news. Everyone was taken aback. Everyone is venting their emotions on it. Even some protagonists or villains who used to be very rational are not very rational anymore. Everyone was taken aback. In the forum, the protagonist and the villain group, for a while, there is no rational discussion. IFCK. At this time, on the edge of a kingdom in the continent of the gods, a national curse sounded. In the sky, a radiant passage has already opened. Yes, this protagonist is ready to become a god and enter the heavenly realm. Although the protagonist Xiaogu has died, he is confident that he has absolute certainty. Because of his gold finger, he is very good at escaping and hiding. Compared with the abyss, this guy is more interested in entering the heaven. In his opinion, the protagonist of Xiaogu should have been accidentally found by Sumo. Therefore, he was going to take advantage of the refresh of the leaderboard before entering the heavenly realm. That is to say, this month, his identity will not change in any way, and Sumo may not be able to discover that he has become a god for the first time. He was already preoccupied with the start of. He didn't even plan to watch the rankings. In his opinion, Sumo has become world-class at most this month, and watching it affects his mood. Whoever thinks about it, that piece of information jumps out. When I saw it, I was startled. Lord of Power, F***K me. The protagonist who is about to become a god is contradictory. The passages to the heavens have been opened up by him. As long as he gets in, he can become a god immediately after being baptized. Become the second protagonist to become a god. The first is dead, but in his opinion, he will rise. But this news is really scary. O Lord of Power. This FCK, if he goes to heaven, wouldn't he be sent to death? Now, he guessed how the protagonist Xiaogu died. The Lord of Power, the existence of a big boss in the heavens, if people want to kill you, the rules that you can't take action in the city of God, I am afraid that they can't limit them. Rules are only used to restrain the weak. It is much less expensive for the strong to break the rules. What's more, people are just dealing with you as a weak chicken, and the price is really nothing. I can't go to heaven. The protagonist gritted his teeth. Looking at the radiant passage, he directly chose Black and Gold Finger. This guy, under the news that Sumo has become the master of power, was directly frightened and blackened on the spot. A Black and Gold Finger, the gold finger of the protagonist who is about to become a god, provides a demon blood. It can make him directly turn his power to the abyss. At the same time, his gold finger also provides an abyss passage and a way to enter the abyss. Once he got these things, the protagonist no longer cares about the celestial passage. As if there were wild beasts in that passage. He suddenly rushed in one direction. There, it is where the abyss passage is. He had to rush in as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would have no chance if he was noticed by the gods in the heavens. The devil is the devil, it's better than entering the heaven and dying. The protagonist thought. On the forum. After a long time, the emotions of the protagonist and the villains gradually returned to normal. Finally, there are no more exclamation marks on the forum. Some more rational discussions began. This Earl of the Moishi territory is simply against the sky. I use all the cells in my whole body, and I can't understand why he grows so fast. Now it's time to call him the Eternal Lord. Now we go to the heavens, I'm afraid it will be more fortunate than fortune. Lord of Power, it's over, our way is blocked. Blacken, I want blacken, ah. I also decided to go into the abyss. A lot of news came out. Just now, because of the appearance of two mythical players, all the protagonists and villains saw some hope, but now, this glimmer of hope has been shattered. Not only was it shattered, but a thicker shadow was shrouded in the sky. This layer of shadow is thicker than the previous one. The whole world seems to have a feeling of black clouds pressing down on the city. The protagonists and villains, none of them can see the slightest light and hope. Each one is a little bit out of breath. In this case, Blacken seems to be their best option. In the eyes of many people, the road to the heavens has been blocked. F***CK Sumo has become a big boss in the heaven. How can they fight Sumo when they go to heaven? Damn it. I'm about to become a god, give me this wave. Why is he so defiant? The precipice has been crossed ahead of time. Damn, there is a bug, and it is not repaired. How do we play? It's pointless to discuss this matter now, it's already like this, we'll either grit our teeth and play, or you can just kill yourself. Oh, now you can lie down completely. In each protagonist and villain group, there are a large number of protagonists and villains who complain a lot. The discussion about whether Sumo has traveled ahead of time has also been put on the agenda again. But this topic has been discussed more than once before. Many protagonists and villains are no longer interested in discussing them. Because it is already an established fact that Sumo has become the master of power. What if Sumo crossed ahead of time? What else can they do? They can't appeal, or protest anything like that. Let's all become demon gods, let's destroy the heaven together. Okay. Good, this proposal is good, destroy the heavens and capture the goddess of the heavens alive. F***CK, you forced us. After a few years, there will be thousands of powerful demon gods in the abyss, and the heavens will be dumbfounded. Ha ha. There are many protagonists and villains, and there are more and more discussions about Blacken. The number of protagonists and villains leaning towards Blacken began to soar rapidly. Originally, in the months after the Blacken option was turned on, Blacken's protagonists and villains only accounted for between a quarter and a third. But after this wave passed, the number of protagonists and villains inclined to Blacken increased rapidly. Just this day. Choose the protagonist and villain of Blacken, I don't know how many. In one day, the number of Blacken's protagonists and villains has risen by about half. This speed is also very amazing. Moreover, Blacken's protagonists and villains are still increasing. Some protagonists and villains like Blacken, but also choose the right time. For example, some of the protagonists who are still in the capital, how can they dare to Blacken if they leave the capital? If you don't leave the capital, Blacken, isn't it courting death? In this wave, the number of protagonists and villains of Blacken is also very large. No way. This time Sumo became the master of power, which scared a lot of people. Even the protagonist who was about to become a god was scared to blacken on the spot. Not to mention others. Some of the protagonists are also imagining there. Once all the protagonists and villains choose blacken, within a few years, the number of demon gods in the abyss will probably be quite astonishing. The power comparison between the abyss and the heavens will change dramatically. Think about it. How can ordinary demon gods be inferior to those guys with gold finger who grow extremely fast? As long as they become gods and give them time, they will continue to grow. It's only a matter of time before they become powerful demons. Haha. Let the eternal Lord be alone in the heaven, and we will all become demon gods. That's right. Even if he is the Lord of Power, he doesn't even want to intervene in the abyss. What about the Lord of Power? If he dares to enter the abyss, he must fall. Everyone blacken. Let's turn the abyss upside down. On the protagonist and villain forum, many protagonists vented their happiness there. No way. Many protagonists actually want to enter the heavenly realm. But now the road in the heaven is watching, and it is blocked by Sumo. Ordinary protagonists can't see a way out at all. He is a big boss in the heaven. If he really dares to go up, won't he die? When these protagonists are depressed, they can only think of blacken, and they can only think about it in this way, and then they can have some happiness. Couldn't be so desperate. Brother Yi, what should we do? When the forum is very lively, the protagonists of the simulator are also discussing. The current simulator protagonists have also made great progress. There are already 3 legendary emulator protagonists and more than a dozen gold emulator protagonists. Among them, Brother Yi, with the help of Tianyan, has also reached the epic level. At this time, these dozen or more emulator protagonists above the gold level are discussing countermeasures. Heaven is definitely not allowed to go. Brother Yi finally spoke up. As for the abyss, he paused. Brother Yi, haven't you been able to bypass him for the past 2 months? Another emulator protagonist asked. Brother Yi's face was very haggard, and his heart was also very tired when he was mentioned by the other party. He said, no, neither did I. I really don't understand why he was able to intervene in the abyss. You can't look at him as an ordinary celestial god. He has a world-class gold finger, maybe a large number of mythical gold fingers, and a way to intervene in the abyss, maybe. Then what are we going to do? I can't go to the heavens, and I can't go to the abyss. I'll be a demigod soon, and the next step is to become a god. In this group, all the simulator protagonists are worried. When the other protagonists were rushing to blacken, they did not rashly choose blacken. Because, after simulating for several months, in the abyss, there is no way to bypass Sumo. Everyone is broken and desperate. If it weren't for their rapid rise in strength, their spirit and will have been greatly improved. They really do fall apart. It's not an option to stay in the world of gods all the time. Sigh, just wait and see what Tianyan and Tianshan do. A simulator protagonist suggested. Their simulations are based on some current reality. If things in reality take a turn for the better, there may be some turning points in the simulated results. As a result, when many protagonists and villains were blackened, these emulator protagonists who were extremely worried all waited in a very depressed manner. I want to see how the 2 mythical players, Tianyan and Tianslayer, do. In this wave, many protagonists and villains were shocked when Sumo became the master of power. In the outer space, on Guishu Star, the battle is still going on. This battle has been going on for nearly 2 days. The ancestors of time and space are indeed tyrannical. A remnant soul, actually so powerful. The attacks of the 3 power lords failed to get him. The Lord of the Storm and the Lord of Ice are also more and more frightened. They are also completely unable to understand, how can there be such a tyrannical existence on Guishu Star? The 2 of them, plus an incomparably powerful Sumo, might be able to compete with the God Master level. But a remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space actually left them without any way. They also saw some clues, but they did not recognize that the ancestor of time and space relied on the power of time. Don't use other means. While Sumo launched a powerful attack, he was on guard for the ancestor of time and space. The strength of the remnant soul of the time and space ancestor itself is actually not strong, and it is also at the power level. The problem is that his power of time and space is very difficult. Time is slow. Such a method, even if there are some restrictions, is also extremely powerful. Moreover, the ancestor of time and space is slowing time and acting on himself, that is, acting on himself. It is equivalent that the ancestor of time and space slowed down his own time. Sumo's 1 second, for the ancestor of time, became 10 seconds. 10 times the gap. The ancestor of space and time has a lot of time to block the attack of the 3 people. This kind of fighting method, for the ancestors of space and time, consumes the least amount and is also the most effective. If the ancestor of time and space wants to use his time power on Sumo, then his consumption will be huge. Acting on the more powerful the object, the greater the consumption, the greater the load on oneself, and may even suffer backlash. He only had one remnant soul left, so he chose the method with the least consumption. This guy, after fighting for 2 days, is still using this method. But Sumo felt that he was holding back his big move. There are not many opportunities for the ancestors of time and space, because the attacks of Sumo and the 2 power lords are too powerful, and they do not give the ancestors of time and space a chance at all. Even if the ancestor of time and space used the power of time, it could only be blocked. There aren't many chances to fight back, but the ancestor of time and space must accumulate strength and prepare for a big move. But this move is big, and the consumption is definitely not small. With his remaining strength, he needs to find the right time. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. After another day of fighting like this, Sumo was ready. Then, soul to flaw. Next second. The remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space, as expected, activated. A terrifying force of time, suddenly driven, came towards Sumo. This is his killer move. This time, the power of time of the ancestor of time and space did not act on him. Instead, it acts on Sumo. This is a very risky thing for the current ancestor of time and space. Time is forbidden territory. The reason why it is taboo is that even if you master the power of time, if you are a little careless in the process of using it, you will be finished. Applying the power of time to oneself and acting on others are 2 concepts. In particular, act on objects stronger than yourself. Once unsuccessful, it is very likely to suffer backlash. The power of time is a very terrifying power. Using the power of time is like walking a tightrope on a mountain of knives. Care needs to be taken. Therefore, even the ancestors of time and space are very careful when there is no suitable time. Only cautiously apply the power of time to yourself. Block the attack of the 3 power masters of Sumo. Until now, he has found the right moment and made a move. That strange power of time, others can't even notice it. Even the Lord of Storm and Lord of Ice did not notice anything. They just felt that the movements of the ancestors of time and space suddenly became faster. They are slowing down. The attack of the ancestors of time and space broke their attack at once, and then rushed over. The other party is too fast. It's coming, they can't stop it. Of course it's too late. The ancestor of time and space is equivalent to accelerating himself, and then slowing down the Lord of Storm and Lord of Ice, as well as the area where Sumo is located. The Lord of Storms and Lord of Ice couldn't help but change their expressions. At this moment, a light drink sounded. Immediately after, the golden light suddenly appeared, and the terrifying spatial power suddenly enveloped it. Under the influence of space power, countless layers of space suddenly appeared in front of the Lord of Storm and Lord of Ice. Hey, using space against time. Childish. The remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space finally made a sound. This sound shook the space, and there was an indescribable sense of old age in the sound. As if it were a voice from endless years ago. Gives a very long feeling, but next second, the face of the ancestor of time and space changed. Because, after Sumo drove the power of space, built countless spaces for the Lord of Storms and Lord of Ice, and blocked the attacks of the ancestors of time and space. The golden light suddenly exploded. The strange aura of the light and dark divine power permeated. What Sumo used before was not the space supernatural power fused by the light and dark supernatural power, but ordinary space divine power. Even ordinary space divine power, with the help of his space scepter, the power that can be exerted is extremely terrifying. After all, his space scepter was crit 10 times. This time, Sumo is powered by the space supernatural power fused by light and dark supernatural power. At the same time, the combat power augmentation system was also activated at once. This system can increase combat power. However, due to the fact that Sumo's power level is too high, it can only increase by a few %. But enough. Sumo's scepter moved. The space in front was shocked. Under the terrifying power of the divine power of light and darkness, the temporal power of the ancestors of time and space acting on this area shattered. Sure enough, it's not easy, but you've been fooled. The voice of the ancestor of time and space sounded. His remnant soul emitted a faint light. Next second, a terrifying force of time rushed out. Before Sumo had time to make any moves, in the eyes of the Lord of Storms and the Lord of Ice, Sumo suddenly settled there. Not moving at all. Finally, it disappeared directly from sight and perception. Seeing this scene, the Lord of Storm and the Lord of Ice looked at each other and were a little surprised. The ancestor of time and space is actually so powerful. Even Sumo got caught. It's the power of time. The Lord of the Storm finally reacted, took a deep breath, and said, "The power of time." These 4 words greatly changed the face of the Lord of Ice. The power of time. Just these 4 words can make the Lord of Power despair. This is not a power level at all, a force that can be opposed. She didn't expect it. Such a terrifying existence is hidden on a mere return star. The other party has actually mastered the power of time. Sky. This is the power that the current celestial giants have never mastered. Here, there is actually one. Fortunately, the other party seems to have been severely injured, and only a remnant remains. If the opponent's strength is complete, I am afraid that they will be defeated long ago. For a while, whether it was the Lord of Storms or the Lord of Ice, they were all a little shocked. At a glance, you are the first god to enjoy this technique. You 2 little girls, it's too late to leave now. What this ancestor wants is only him. The ancestor of time and space glanced at the place where Sumo disappeared, and said lightly to the Lord of Storm and Lord of Ice. He did not attack again. It seems that it is to express his sincerity. The Lord of Storms and the Lord of Ice looked at each other. She took another look at the place where Sumo disappeared. "Okay, Senior, let's go now." Then, the Lord of the Storm bowed his hands and said. The remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space stood there, although now he looked like a shadow with only 50% transparency. But the momentum on his body is extremely terrifying. He gave a faint, thinking that the Lord of Storm and the Lord of Ice were frightened by him. The Lord of Storm and Lord of Ice turned around and seemed to be leaving. The ancestor of time and space breathed a sigh of relief. Do it. But at this time, with a light drink from the Lord of Storms, the 2 shot again. Terrifying attacks, from all directions, rushed towards the ancestor of time and space. His blow consumes too much, we take him down and rescue Mo. Lord of the Storm. The Lord of Ice did not say a word and attacked. The face of the ancestor of time and space changed. He didn't expect that he had come up with a big killer move, but he still hadn't been able to scare off the 2 little girls in his eyes. Are these powerful masters of this era so not afraid of death? The Lord of Storms guessed right. After the ancestor of time and space issued that blow, the consumption was indeed very large. In a short period of time, there is no way to use the power of time. No matter how powerful he was in the past, now he is just a remnant soul. But 2 power masters who can't even control the space, just want to deal with him, it's still too tender. Humph. The ancestor of time and space stopped talking, and drove the power of the returning star again to fight with the Lord of Storm and Lord of Ice. The battle suddenly became extremely intense. A dozen, and a few more days. Although the ancestor of time and space consumes a lot of money, he plays very passively. But with Guishu Xing, he was still able to block the Lord of Storm and Lord of Ice. Several days passed, and Sumo still did not show up. This puzzled both the Lord of Storms and the Lord of Ice. Where did Mo go? The Lord of the Storm did not understand. Sumo didn't seem to disappear, but she couldn't feel it at all, as if she had entered another time and space. With Sumo's strength, can't he break the move of the ancestor of time and space? However, she did not give up, attacking with the Lord of Ice while trying to find Sumo. But she has never been able to find out where Sumo is. In this way, time passes. Soon, she was here with the Lord of Ice and fought with the ancestor of time and space for a full month, but Sumo still did not show up. You 2. Don't force this ancestor. The ancestor of time and space became more and more passive. He wanted to trick the Lord of Storms and Lord of Ice to leave before, but they didn't leave at all. Don't give him a chance to breathe. Originally, he launched 1,000 years, and the consumption was huge. Being pressed and beaten by the Lord of Storm and Lord of Ice again, his consumption will be even greater. The Lord of Storm and Lord of Ice had a cold expression. Although they consume a lot of energy, they are merciless, and they don't spare their divine power at all, trying to fight the ancestors of time and space to life and death. Damn it, you will regret it. The ancestor of time and space was very depressed, and he took out a black magic insect and smashed it all at once. With his movements. In the abyss, a place with a large number of gray spiders, a gray spider felt something and moved quietly. Then, the gray spider disappeared quietly, and no one could see its trajectory. At a glance, it turns out that it is. At the same time, there seemed to be nothingness all around, and there was no way to rush out. Sumo's voice sounded. Through the prompt system, he knew what the real ultimate move of the ancestor of time and space was. It is not simply the power of time acting on them. Instead, this terrifying magic technique was launched. 1,000 years at a glance. This is a divine art activated through the power of time. The effect of this magic is very simple. Trapping Sumo in a time singularity. the time flow in this time singularity is extremely slow. Now Sumo, stay here for a minute, maybe a month has passed outside. A glance at 10,000 years is just an exaggerated statement, and it is not possible to make such an exaggerated time flow comparison. But the comparison of the time flow rate is also very scary. Sumo estimates that the outside world may have passed for several days. The ancestor of time and space wanted to trap Sumo here. After dealing with the storm and ice, he calmly arranged a large number of traps to deal with Sumo. Come to think of it, it was only a few minutes for Sumo, but a month passed outside. The ancestor of time and space has a month to arrange means to deal with Sumo. It is not easy to break the time singularity. The power level light and dark powers are not enough. The god level divine power that Sumo picked up didn't work either. Space power. Also useless. Here is the realm of time. Then use the power of chaos, Sumo whispers. Chaos divine power naturally restrains these forces derived from laws. The power of time, although extremely terrifying, is also a kind of power of this kind. Chaos divine power should also have restraint on it. So, Sumo mobilized chaos divine power to greet him. In the next second, the power level chaotic power is driven. A terrifying attack slammed into the emptiness and impenetrable time wall all around. Then I saw that the time wall was broken down at once. Hit a big hole by Sumo. The time wall of this singularity, even the power of space, cannot be broken at all. In fact, not to mention the power of space, the power of any law, the power of power, cannot break this time wall. Unless, Sumo can be as strong as a giant at this time, can break with absolute force. The realm of time, either, you're strong enough big enough to break tricks. Or, you can master it yourself. Otherwise, it will be very passive. But now, an exception has emerged. Sumo, with his terrifying chaotic power, forcibly broke this time wall. His chaotic divine power is currently at the power level. It is formed by Sumo's fusion of a large amount of chaotic energy into the light and dark power of the power level. This drop has almost reached the upper limit of chaotic energy. The power level light and dark supernatural power, the chaos energy that can be merged is very much. But there is also a limit. After exceeding this limit, even the light and dark divine power of the power level will become chaotic. After chaotic, it becomes unavailable, then it's meaningless. The purpose of fusing chaos energy is to finally become usable. In the entire celestial world, I am afraid that only Sumo can utilize the chaotic energy in this way. Other divine powers simply do not dare to integrate chaotic energy. A little bit of fusion, it is directly chaotic. No, not only in the heavens, but also in the abyss. The inclusiveness and plasticity of light and dark powers are also extremely strong. In short, after Sumo drove this drop of chaos power, it was a terrible blow. The time wall that trapped him at the singularity of time will be directly destroyed with one blow. Outside, the time and space ancestor who was in the fierce battle felt something, and his face changed. How is it possible? Don't think about it. After speaking, he brazenly activated the power of time again. That's the scary thing about this skill. He has so much time that even if Sumo breaks the time wall, outside of him, there is enough time to make up for it. Mo is coming out. Let's help him. Seeing that Sumo was about to come out, the Lord of Storms and Lord of Ice, who had fought extremely hard, did their best. Their current opponents are now not only the ancestors of time and space. There is also an extremely powerful demon. 1. The main body is a gray spider. The ancestor of time and space, seeing that he was invincible, actually recruited helpers. Moreover, his helper is a congenital devil. This innate demon god is extremely powerful, and its strength is already close to the level of a god. The Lord of the Storm and the Lord of Ice have been fighting with him for nearly a month, and the fight is also very hard. Fortunately, in the first month, they beat the ancestors of time and space to lose their temper. The ancestor of time and space consumes a lot, and in the second month of battle, it does not play a big role. It's not that they didn't want to find help. However, in the heavens, the masters of other powers cannot be found here at all. The outer space is too big. After the arrival of the gray spider, the ancestor of time and space drove the returning star to interfere with the surrounding. It is not easy to find the power master of the non-space system. The master of space system power, only Sumo is alone. Other space law powerhouses, it is impossible to come here. Therefore, the Lord of the Storm and the Lord of Ice are fighting extremely hard here. The gray spider held both the Lord of Storms and the Lord of Ice in a 1-to-2 match. The ancestor of time and space was able to deal with Sumo calmly. I saw that the singularity's time wall quickly closed. The difference in time gave the ancestors of time and space more time. Close? Yes, he's outside. In the singularity of time, Sumo glanced at the villain panel and whispered. From the villain panel, he can know how fast the flow of time is. Because the above information is refreshed too fast, outside, it has been nearly 2 months. Sumo pondered for a while, then, driving more chaos power. Want to fix? Then you can't fix it at all. Next second. Sumo delivers a more powerful blow. Outside, it has been a few days since the spacetime ancestors filled the space wall. While recovering his strength, the ancestor of space and time is on guard with all his strength. Coming. What did he feel? Getting ready to go. However, immediately, an extremely terrifying attack rushed out. The spacetime wall was completely shattered at once. Then, a long howling sounded. Sumo, who exudes an extremely terrifying aura, jumped out. How is this possible? The face of the ancestor of time and space was suddenly filled with an unbelievable look. Sumo, so strong and unparalleled, directly broke the time singularity created by him at once. Even if he is a singularity, because he is a remnant soul, his power is not very strong, and it is not something that Sumo can break so quickly. Don't look at the outside world for nearly 2 months, inside the singularity, it's only a few minutes. In his opinion, it will take at least dozens of minutes for Sumo to break the singularity. A few tens of minutes in the singularity, in the outside world, is several years. But Sumo is too fast, breaking the time singularity so quickly. Puff. The singularity of time that was maintained with all his strength was broken, and the ancestor of time and space also encountered backlash, and made a sound of vomiting blood. This is not really vomiting blood, but the soul has been severely damaged. While you are sick, it will kill you. Sumo violently attacked the ancestor of time and space. The ancestor of time and space has recovered some strength this month. Although he suffered a backlash just now, he forcibly raised his strength and drove the power of time again. Sumo's attack has come. This time, Sumo uses the power of chaos. The ancestor of time and space felt the fluctuations in Sumo's divine power, and his face changed greatly. In the next second, Sumo's attack came mightily. The ancestors of time and space can't use too much time power now. His current power of time can only do time delay at present. After being slow, he is also needed to block Sumo's attack. But this time, he can't stop it. Sumo's attack was too terrifying, the time and space ancestor itself was injured, and the successive attacks could not be stopped at all. Seeing that the situation was wrong, the gray spider spit out violently, and a large number of void webs appeared. Sumo snorted lightly, and his strength increased again. The net of the void was instantly broken. Sumo's attack broke everything like a broken bamboo. The ancestor of time and space was horrified, and in the next second, he was hit by Sumo's attack all at once. Immediately after, Sumo's attack, like a huge wave, kept coming. Completely drowned the ancestors of time and space. When these attacks dissipated, I saw that the figure of the ancestor of time and space darkened, turning into a transparent figure with a transparency of less than 10%. Before the gray spider could react, Sumo had already flashed and appeared in front of the ancestor of time and space, and caught the ancestor of time and space at once. This powerful ancestor of time and space, just like this, was captured alive by Sumo. Seeing that the ancestor of time and space was captured alive by Sumo, the gray spider didn't retreat, and a pair of eyes fixed on Sumo. Ink. Watch out for its eyes. The voice of the Lord of Storms sounded. Sumo's scepter moved, and golden light illuminated the area. The eye of the void, which the gray spider launched through its gaze, was instantly shattered. Then, Sumo's attack came. Overwhelming, as if the whole world is Sumo's attack. Obviously Sumo is only one person, but Sumo's current attack is extremely terrifying. Like 1,000 troops. The gray spider couldn't stand it any longer. After giving Sumo a deep look, he drilled into the space and quickly fled away. Seeing that a void spider, who was about to reach the level of a god, was beaten away by Sumo, the Lord of the Storm and the Lord of Ice were a little stunned. After the gray spider escaped, Sumo did not chase. As soon as his hand moved, a spaceball was rubbed out by his hand. In this spaceball, the ancestor of time and space was trapped inside. Malaise. Sumo wasn't going to kill him now. But to keep him, to gain the power of his time. For Sumo, it is not difficult, he just needs to destroy the consciousness of the ancestor of time and space, and turn his remnant soul into the purest soul body. Then, facing this soul body, use the right hand of God to continuously extract it. The right hand of God can extract many things, but it can only be extracted from dead objects. It is impossible to extract from living things. But you can pick up the opponent's dropped attributes. The Lord of the Storm and the Lord of Ice are here. Thanks to the two goddesses for their help, Sumo gratefully said. Even if the two of them left, Sumo was able to break the ban. But they chose to stay and fought here for 2 full months, which is also worthy of Sumo's thanks. No thanks, Mo, you should be able to come out without us. Lord of the Storm. She is still amazed by Sumo's strong fighting power. Sumo chatted with the two goddesses for a while, and then looked at Guishu Xing. He prepares to become the returning Ruin Star Lord first, and then deal with the ancestors of time and space. Anyway, this guy can't escape. So, Sumo entered the returning star and began to quickly decipher the law of returning to the returning star. On the returning star, Sumo was quickly cracking the rules of the returning star. This is what you must do if you want to become a return star. Absolute mastery of the laws of the entire divine star. As one of the 9 stars, Guishu Xing has a huge volume and is filled with incomparably rich space energy. Becoming the star master of the ruins is also the common expectation of all space law powerhouses. But, since the master of quasi-space power fell on Guishu Star, other space law powerhouses have no idea about Guishu Star. Here, it's still a little too dangerous indeed. The superpower of the ancestor of time and space is hidden here. Although it is a remnant soul, a master of other powers may fall here. Sumo's progress is very fast. In the process, Sumo also knew the danger of becoming a returning star master himself. Even if it didn't stop it, it was extremely dangerous in itself. Special. Some evil creatures that master the power of space and the like have actually left a large number of traps at the level of the returning star. The ancestor of time and space also left a lot of traps. If it is another space law powerhouse, even if it is the quasi-powerful master, who dares to analyze it, one carelessness will trigger these traps. Then, suffer the backlash at the law level, slightly injured. Heavy vomiting blood. Then, some evil creatures hiding behind will be able to find an opportunity. However, these are nothing to Sumo. Sumo's progress is too fast. It took only half a day to control most of the laws of the entire Guishu Star. On Guishu Star, the Lord of Storms and Lord of Ice waited silently while recovering. This time, the two of them have a new understanding of Sumo's strength. Sumo's performance is not ordinary tough. Even the ancient superpowers such as the ancestor of time and space who have mastered the power of time can't help Sumo. Although it seems, Sumo seems to have been caught in the eyes of the ancestors of time and space. But even without them, the ancestor of time and space would not be able to sleep Sumo for long. That's it. The day is full. Sumo stood up. With his movements, the whole returning star trembled. In just one day, Sumo successfully controlled the entire returning market star and became the official returning market star lord. This speed is amazing. The Lord of the Storm and the Lord of Ice were once again shocked by a small shock. The two of them are now a little numb to Sumo's anti-sky. Let's go. Let's bring Guishu Xing back to the heaven. Sumo said. The Lord of the Storm couldn't help but look forward to that moment. Guishu Xing has been in a state of lost contact for a very long time. If Sumo can bring Guishu Xing back to the heaven, it will be an extremely grand event. Boom. The huge Guishu Xing moved and began to move in the direction of the heaven. At the speed of returning to the ruins of the star, if you travel like this, it will take a few days to be able to reach the heavenly realm. After taking control of Guishu Xing, in fact, Sumo also discovered a powerful skill of Guishu Xing. Void jump. The entire returning star can perform space jumps, but it consumes more energy. Sumo is not short of this time, so he is not ready to use this skill. On Guishu Star, the Lord of Storm and Lord of Ice are still recovering. This time, they contributed a lot, and Sumo wasn't going to treat them badly. As it happens, he has some Chaos Stones that are useless and can be given to them. Even if there is no treasure in the Chaos Stone, its value is not bad, and the help to the Lord of Power is not small. Sumo has too many Chaos Orbs, and he doesn't really need them. However, after returning to the heaven, I will find another opportunity to go to the Sea of Chaos. Otherwise, there is no way to explain where Sumo's Chaos Stone came from. After Sumo entered the heaven, he never went to the Sea of Chaos. It is also just to replenish the chaotic energy. Chaos divine power restrains some laws and powers too strongly. Breaking the time singularity this time is, to a certain extent, exploiting this restraint. For example, Chinese people are afraid of ghosts, but in Africa, people don't believe in ghosts at all, so ghosts are ineffective for Africans. Chaos divine power has this kind of feeling. This thing, do not play according to your rules, use it, you can directly lift the table. Naturally powerful. However, no one has ever been able to use it before. On the other side, Sumo took out the remnant of the ancestor of time and space there. At this time, the remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space is already very weak. This one's superpower is now exhausted. Beside this guy, there is a bubble. Good guy. Perhaps because it was disabled, the volume of this bubble is not too small. Sumo burst this bubble. You picked up Spirit 1312, Power of Space 123, Power of Time 1, Skill Fragment 1. You triggered a 15x crit. On the villain panel, a prompt appears. Ha! This wave of picking up attributes actually picked up the power of time directly? It seems that if you want to gain more attributes in the future, if you beat the opponent first, there is a great possibility that you will be able to beat out some more attributes. The crit this time is also good, 15 times the crit. The power of space directly hit thousands of copies. The trace of time power I picked up was also critically hit 15 times. In addition, there is a skill fragment. Sumo opened this skill fragment and saw that this skill fragment was a skill of the ancestor of time and space. Time is slow. This is one of the most commonly used skills of the ancestors of time and space. This skill, don't look at it, can't be used to attack directly, but it is very powerful. It can even turn the tide of a battle. Think about it, other people's attacks are all on your face, you can't stop it originally, but after you launch a time delay, you can dodge it, and then counterattack calmly. In fact, at the end, if it wasn't for the ancestors of time and space, he had to exert all his strength to maintain the singularity of time. The backlash he received was too great, and it would take some time for Sumo to solve him. His eyes are 10,000 years old. It seems that it can only be extracted. Sumo thought. Don't worry, just take it slowly. Anyway, the ancestor of time and space has already arrived. Sumo looked at the 15 powers of time, extracted by Gold Finger, and directly integrated into the bloodline. He could master it. Moreover, the succubus blood also has a feeling of being ready to move. Sumo pondered for a while, and swallowed a portion of the power of time from the succubus blood. Next second, the succubus lineage has undergone some changes. Bloodlines start a new evolution. Sumo saw this change at a glance. After the succubus bloodline swallowed the power of time, it actually started a new evolutionary process again. Sumo quickly knew what was needed for this bloodline evolution. The evolution this time is not only related to time, but also to space. Also, it seems that some chaotic energy is needed. In other words, Sumo needs to provide space-time energy to the succubus bloodline, plus chaos energy. What is the direction of evolution this time? Sumo couldn't help but be curious. Before, it was the bloodline of the holy succubus. A fusion of heaven and abyss, the power of these two worlds. This time, in what direction will it evolve? The direction of evolution, Sumo does not know yet. What he knows now is that the power of time not only allowed Sumo to start a new evolution of his bloodline, but also gave him some mastery of the power of time. A little, still not quite enough. So, Sumo fused the remaining 14 threads into the bloodline. After the fusion of the 14 threads of time power, Sumo fused all 15 skill fragments. And then, Sumo's fingers moved slightly. On the fingers, a trace of the power of time appeared. Then, compared to the surrounding, Sumo becomes slow. Time is slow. In this way, it was successfully cast by Sumo. 1 second. Sumo knew how long this time lag lasted. Only 1 second. Don't underestimate 1 second. The previous time and space ancestor, when the display time was slow, each time it was used, it could only maintain the outside world for about 1 second. For a god of the power level, 1 second can do too much. After the time is slow, in Sumo's perception, everything around it will be 5 times slower. Any attack by others is directly 5 times slower. And, for him, he has the equivalent of 5 seconds to react. If someone hits an attack that is too powerful to block in one hit, Sumo can use it several times. Just like the ancestors of time and space before. If he hadn't possessed the power of time, he would have been bombarded by Sumo long ago. Sumo kept trying. Soon, he learned more about the slowness of time. This magical technique, used for oneself, is different from acting on others. There are indeed many limitations. When using it, you need to be careful. Otherwise, it's not fun to suffer a backlash from the realm of time. For Sumo, however, there is one less worry. Because he found that even if there is a backlash, when the backlash comes, driving the chaotic divine power can greatly carry this backlash. The power of the chaos divine power itself is not very powerful, but the restraint of the power of various laws is simply not too good. After trying this for a while, Sumo has learned a lot about the power of time. The slow time has also become longer with Sumo's attempt, and the effect is also better. In addition, if Sumo can master more time power, the effect of time delay will be better. You can also figure out some safe ways to use the power of time yourself. This is magic. Of course, it is a power-level divine technique, which is many times more powerful than ordinary divine techniques. The 10,000-year view of the ancestor of time and space is what he figured out by himself. The ancestor of time and space. Keep it for extraction. Sumo glanced at the ancestor of time and space and whispered. Then, his eyes lit up. Succubus eye, activated. Even if the ancestor of time and space was extremely powerful in the past, under the eyes of Sumo's succubus, now he has no room for resistance. Immediately stopped. Soon, Sumo knew something about the remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space. The ancestor of time and space really fell because he wanted to control more power of time, and even wanted to become the Lord of Time. The realm of time is too scary. The ancestor of time and space was already invincible at that time, even more terrifying than the current celestial giants. He just wanted to become a master of power in the realm of time. Actually, suffered terrible backlash, suffered heavy losses. Immediately afterwards, his strong enemy came up. The ancestor of time and space fell from this. Fortunately, although he suffered a backlash, he also got a greater power of time, and his remnant soul ran away with this power of time. After sleeping for an unknown time, his remnant soul regained some strength. Then, I found Guishu Xing along the way, and I didn't know how long it was hidden on it. Until now. That is to say, in this remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space, there is still a greater power of time. Sumo pondered for a while, and his eyes changed. In the next second, the eyes of the remnant soul of the ancestor of time and space were scattered. This superpower, who survived countless years ago, was killed by Sumo just like that. It is also equivalent to a complete fall. Such superpowers, maybe there are other means, Sumo is not going to keep him. But Sumo just killed his consciousness and kept his soul body. Now, this soul body has become a pure soul body. The power of time has been integrated with this soul body. If Sumo does not have the right hand of God, there are still some difficulties in obtaining the power of time. Sumo pondered for a while, and with a move of his hand, he sealed the soul body. He is not ready to extract now. He already has time delays, and for now, it's completely enough. The power of time in the soul, Sumo is ready to wait and see. Let's see if we can upgrade the crit talent by 1 level, and then extract it. The power of time, to obtain it yourself, is too risky and often difficult. The ancestor of time and space is ready-made here, and Sumo naturally wants to maximize its value. When extracting, the crit talent can crit more. Crit 15 times before. If you can level up, you might be able to hit a higher multiplier. If there is a crit of dozens of times, Sumo may be able to do what the ancestor of time and space could not do with all his life. That is, be the master of time, instead of just mastering a bit of the power of time. If you can become the master of time, Sumo's means, it will be even more terrifying. At that time, no matter it is the heaven or the abyss, I am afraid that they will not dare to provoke him easily. Of course, the time domain, becoming the master of power, can work. Sumo is not sure yet. Sumo will also be a little more cautious. A living example of the ancestors of time and space is here. A superpower who was very close to the supreme throne, but he wanted to become the master of power in the time domain, but he fell. If you want to become the Lord of Time, the difficulty is probably not much worse than that of ascending to the highest throne. Of course, the ancestor of time and space is definitely not comparable to Sumo. Even if Sumo's current strength is not as good as that of him in his heyday, the particularity of Sumo itself is not comparable to the ancestor of time and space. After having some plans, Sumo's eyes turned to the villain forum. Then, open the villain leaderboard. This time, for Sumo, the fight against the ancestor of time and space is actually only a few days. But because of the 1,000 years at a glance of the ancestors of time and space, the outside world has actually passed nearly 2 months. Soon, it will be the end of the year. In other words, it will be a year since this confrontation game begins. For the past 2 months, Sumo has not done anything. He wanted to see the changes in these 2 months. 2 months have passed, and the changes have not been small. There is one more power ranking list. Well, Sumo is only seeing it now. Because he hadn't seen it before, his eyes swept to the strength rankings. He himself, in the first place, strength is the master of power. Have so many people become gods? Then, Sumo saw that from the 2nd place to the 30th place, all of them were more than true gods. As for whether they are demon gods or gods in the heavens, it is impossible to see them. And from 30 to 100, all of them are demigods. That is to say, 1 year after the game started, the top players have generally reached the god level. A demigod is a god. No, this leaderboard only shows the top 100. To become a demigod, there should be more. Silver level Goldfinger can become a demigod. Many bronze Goldfingers will also work, but at a slower rate. In a year, if it goes well, the gold level Goldfinger will become a demigod with ease. In addition, there is another factor to consider. Some people start out as gold, and they grow faster. If these people develop smoothly, maybe they can become false gods within a year. Silver level Goldfinger, it is a little difficult to become a demigod within a year, and it is estimated that a small number of them can develop smoothly. Most of them should still be at the sanctuary or legendary level. Considering the number of players, in the past 2 months, the number of demigod level protagonists and villains is probably quite large. They can grow so fast, I'm afraid it has something to do with Sumo. One by one was under great pressure, and they all struggled to grow. In addition to the big changes in strength, the levels of the protagonist and villain have also changed a lot. There are 5 mythical protagonists and more than 10 mythical villains. In the past 2 months, Sumo did not have any action, but these protagonists and villains made some noise. For example, after some epic villains entered the abyss, they frequently attacked the world of gods. There is a kingdom that was almost destroyed by a powerful demon dynasty. The entire world of the gods has also become a little chaotic because these protagonists and villains have entered the abyss. 15 mythical levels. Sumo whispers. This amount, in Sumo's opinion, a little less. Now Sumo is not very interested in ordinary players. His crit talent, if he wants to rise to the next level, 710 needs 500 million villains. Even if the crit multiplier of the crit talent is now high and the villain value is 500 million, how much time will it take to kill the protagonist below gold? At least the gold level protagonist is a little more powerful. A gold level protagonist, with a 50 times more crit, also has a villain value of 250,000. If it is a legendary level, with a 50 times more crit, the villain value can reach 2.5 million. If it is a mythical protagonist, with a crit of more than 50 times, the villain value can reach more than 250 million. Kill 2 and that's enough. Therefore, in the past 2 months, Sumo fought with the ancestors of time and space, which made the protagonist and villain grow up this wave, which is just right for him. Leeks are growing. Can harvest some. Sumo looked at the leaderboard and picked out who to harvest. After watching it for a while, Sumo closed this chart. Not urgent. Go back to the realm first. In the past 2 months, it seems that the protagonist has entered the heaven. But it seems that there are more protagonists in the abyss. You received the first prize in the strength list, the villain was worth 10,000, and the luck was 500. You triggered 60 times the critical strike, got 600,000 villains, and 300,000 luck. You received the reward for the number 1 villain list, and you got. Sumo received all the rewards from the leaderboard. The rewards of the strength list are very high, and the reward for the number 1 in the monthly list has a value of 10,000 villains. In this wave, Sumo got more than 1 million villain value again. In the void, Guishu Xing was still walking fast, heading towards the heavenly realm. The forum was as lively as ever. For the past 2 months, Sumo did not show up, which made many protagonists and villains take a breath. Due to the great development of the protagonists and villains, there are also many protagonists and villains who have become demons. There are more protagonists and villains entering the abyss. These protagonists and villains are all in high spirits. Recently, they were talking about the annual leaderboard. Some people are still wondering, what is Sumo doing in the past 2 months, why has there been no movement? You said, what the Eternal Lord is doing in the past 2 months, Tianyan and several protagonists have entered the heaven, and he has no response. Who knows, maybe because he was too arrogant, he entered some dangerous places and died. It shouldn't be possible, but it's possible to go into some dangerous places to hunt for treasures or something. Haha, it would be nice if he was trapped in a dangerous place, and we can grow up in peace. What are you afraid of? I have become a devil, can his hand reach the abyss? On the forum, many protagonists and villains discussed there. The current protagonists and villains, unless they encounter some private topics, like to communicate in the public communication section. Some protagonists after becoming gods especially like to dance. Especially the protagonist after becoming a demon. These protagonists are basically legendary protagonists above. In a year's time, it is no problem to become a demigod at the gold level, but it is not difficult to officially become a god. However, in a month or 2, the gold level protagonists will probably become gods in batches. Because Sumo has been inactive, many protagonists and villains have relaxed one by one. They didn't know that in 2 days at most, Sumo would be able to return to the heavenly realm. On the returning star, Sumo is absorbing space energy continuously. The space energy on Guizhou star itself is also obtained through constant travel. The size of this star is also very large. If you look at it from the eyes of ordinary people, this star is naturally a forbidden area of AA life. There is no air above, it is extremely desolate, there is not even a single plant, and there are energy tides everywhere. Put an ordinary person on it, even if you put on a spacesuit, you won't be able to live for a few seconds. But in the eyes of the law powerhouses of the space system, this returning star is an authentic treasure. The Lord of the Storm and the Lord of Ice are still recovering. After 2 months of fighting for a very long time, their consumption is not small, and it takes a lot of time to recover. Sumo did not disturb them, and silently absorbed the space energy. At the same time, in the Divine Soundstone, he communicated with the Dark Moon Goddess. In the past 2 months, several protagonists have entered the heavenly realm. Each of these protagonists has found some divine protection above power. Among them, Heavenly Luck was sent by the Holy Master to pick him up after entering the heavenly realm. There is also a protagonist, who should be picked up by the Lord of Lightning who just passed when Sumo became empowered. Under the circumstance that Sumo has become the Lord of Power, these protagonists who dare to enter the heaven are naturally reliant. On the strength list, the second Heavenly Luck is already the next god. There are several protagonists are also lower gods. In addition, the Queen of the New Moon has become a god and entered the heavenly realm. Sumo gave Queen Crescent a lot of things before she set off. Her strength has risen very fast, and she has reached the median god. The Queen of the New Moon mainly masters the power of the ice element. She currently resides above the 3rd month, but the 3rd month is not particularly suitable for her. She needs to go to a place rich in ice energy. Sumo is going to let the Queen of the New Moon go to the Ice Lord's god's domain to stay for a while, and then help her get an ice star. After chatting with the goddess of the Dark Moon, Sumo took out the magic insect and read the message Barbara sent him. The Succubus dynasty has grown extremely fast in the past 2 months. With the help of what Sumo gave before, Barbara successfully became a median god. Not only that, in the current Succubus dynasty, the number of median gods has exceeded 10. The next god has a lot. Although it takes time to use those things, you must know that Barbara was already a lower god before. Before other succubuses, there were quite a few true gods and demigods. With the help of Blacken's achievement system and punch card system, they naturally grow faster. That is to say, in the current Succubus dynasty, there are already a bunch of demon gods. In the past 2 months, Sumo's Goldfinger has refreshed several waves, all of which have been acquired by Sumo. For example, a soft meal system, a punch card system, and a location check-in system. These systems are all crazy filler bars. The white strips in the soft rice system have not been filled yet. The white bar of the punch-in system could not be filled, because Sumo kept punching in. The power level punch-in, this mythical level system, is difficult to make up for the rewards. These things are enough for Sumo to train more gods. When players have become gods, they will not think of it. Sumo's subordinates already have a lot of gods. The same myth level system, in other protagonists, is completely different from that of Sumo. Other protagonists have to slowly unlock the rewards in the system. Sumo directly swept away. How can this be compared? After all, the strongest protagonist and villain are now the next gods. The gap between the lower god and the master of power is not that big. After learning about all these situations, Sumo's heart moved slightly. Because, he noticed a little change. As soon as his hand moved, a thought of God was taken out by him. This is the thought of Anastasia. Anastacia's idea was obtained by Sumo, and it has been a long time. However, he has been in a trance. Until now, she had no movement. Can you help me with one thing? Then, Sumo received her mental wave. Her mental fluctuations still seem to be a little weak, giving people a feeling of frailty. At the beginning, a goddess who was closest to the supreme throne has fallen to such a point now. What's up? Sumo asked. Anastacia's mental fluctuations sounded again. Can you go to the church? On the square outside the church, there is an angel statue made of divine gold with a ray of energy in it. Can you bring it for me? Church? That is the land of the Holy Lord. Sumo pondered for a while and said, okay. He didn't say anything about remuneration, and didn't ask why, because Anastasia looked a little stupid now. Others don't seem to know. Otherwise, she would have said such an important matter directly. By the way, you have to be careful, Anastasia said again. Be careful of what? Sumo asked. Anastasia seemed to be recalling, but couldn't. Be careful. Anastasia's mental fluctuations became a little bigger, and she seemed to recall something that stimulated her. Holy Lord. Don't tell. Anastasia stopped when she said this. Then, he fell into a daze again. Beware of the Lord? Don't tell the Lord. Sumo roughly understood what Anastasia meant. It should be to let Sumo be careful of the Holy Lord. At the same time, do not tell the Lord that Anastasia exists. Informing Anastasia, Sumo faintly felt that her fallback then might not be that simple. Holy Lord, Sanctuary. Speaking of which, Tianyun's identity from the beginning was the Prince of the Holy Court Empire, but he was not favored. The Holy Court Empire was the empire owned by the Lord of the Church. Looking at Anastasia, who was in a daze again, Sumo thought about it and decided to go to the church to have a look. His purpose was not to help Anastasia without thinking. More want to find out, how did Anastasia fall? In Sumo's sense, this is very likely to involve the Supreme Throne. After putting away Anastasia's spiritual thoughts, Sumo decided not to waste any more time. His hand moved. Guishu Xing lit up. It emits light 100 times brighter than before. Next second, the entire Guishu star jumped violently. Just like a space jump, it disappeared directly from the place. When it reappears, the extremely huge celestial sun appeared in the field of vision. Sumo directly manipulated the returning star and returned to the heaven. As soon as Guishu Xing appeared in the sky above the heavenly realm, the fluctuations it radiated were sensed by many divine spirits. Look, what is that? In a god's domain, many gods look at Guishu Xing. As the Lord of 9 stars, Guishu Xing's size is also very large. The spatial fluctuations spread out, so that in some of the gods, many spaces were quietly born. Return to the market. This is the return to the market star. There are some gods with relatively old existence, who recognized Guishu Xing and shouted loudly. Has Guishu Xing finally returned to the heaven? A lot of gods have come out. In the heights of the heavens, there are also some powerful masters who are disturbed. On Guishu Star, the Lord of Storm and Lord of Ice had already stood up. Sumo flew into the sky, stroking his hands. Returning star began to adjust its trajectory. After returning to the celestial world, Sumo has to find a trajectory for the returning star that can make the most profit for the returning star. This running trajectory is actually not difficult to find, because the previous returning stars had a fixed trajectory. However, an accident happened later, and Guishu Xing broke away from the celestial realm and became a wandering star. This accident is also related to this guy, the ancestor of time and space. When the ancestor of time and space forcibly mastered more time power, this guy arranged a backhand on the returning star. However, after the ancestors of time and space fell, it took a lot of time for the remnant soul to recover. It was not until the beginning of this era that the ancestors of time and space took Guishu Xing away. Now, Sumo has redrawn the trajectory for the returning star, to let the returning star return to its place. Under the operation of Sumo, the return star began to change. Look, it's the Eternal Lord. At this time, someone recognized Sumo. Sure enough, it is the Lord of Eternity. Someone said before that the Lord of Eternity is likely to look for Guishu Xing, but I didn't expect that he would get Guishu Xing back so quickly. The Eternal Lord really brought Guishu Xing back. The Guishu star ranks very high among the 9 stars, and this time the Eternal Lord is even more powerful. Immediately after recognizing Sumo, the gods in the celestial world began to talk about it. Haha, little friend, I didn't expect you to bring Guishu Xing back so quickly. Soon, the Lord of Flame and the Lord of Flame also came to join in the fun. As soon as the Lord of Flame saw Sumo, he noticed that Sumo seemed to have changed. I am afraid his strength is stronger again. He is indeed the ancestor of time and space. The Lord of Flames thought. I'm afraid he doesn't know that the real ancestor of time and space has been solved by Sumo. In the heavens, more gods were disturbed. The return of one of the 9 stars to the market star is indeed a grand event. This event is also related to Sumo, natural and striking. The Eternal Lord has become the returning Star Lord, and I am afraid that a celebration will be held. I was not able to participate in his new god celebration last time. This time, I must participate. Some gods thought. In the sky, more and more lords of power are coming. The Lord of Thunder also came, and the Lord of Earth also appeared. As the Lord of 9 stars, the importance of Guishu Xing is no less than that of a Lord of Power. This god star, if it is fully driven, there is more magic. Each of the 9 stars in the heavens is very important. Like Thunderstar, it is more useful than Thunderlord's Thunder God realm. The strength of the Lord of Lightning is stronger than that of the Lord of Thunder, for this reason. With the Thunderstar, the Lightning Lord's combat power will be greatly improved. In addition, Once the returning star returns to its position, it can also make the space laws of the heavenly realm more perfect. With Guishu Xing present, the surface space of the celestial realm is not so easily broken. Such a grand event. Many power lords have come to watch. The eternal lord, it is him. At this time, behind a hidden power lord, a lower god's face changed. This lower god is a protagonist. Moreover, it was also a protagonist who became a myth in the last month. A lot has happened in the past 2 months. The strength accumulated by many protagonists, as well as some actions, broke out in these 2 months. The initial lead was that Tian Yun chose to enter the Tian 11 world to become a god. When the god of luck, many protagonists are staring at him, wanting to see if he will be killed by Sumo. As a result, no. Moreover, Sumo seems to have disappeared for 2 months. As a direct result, some protagonists who thought they had something to rely on chose to enter the heavens one after another. The protagonist is one of them. Before entering the heavenly realm, he also engaged in a big wave, and with the help of the system of boosting rewards, he successfully rose to the mythical level. The empire he belongs to is also a very powerful empire. Even bigger than the Empire of Storms. This wave of his entry into the heavenly realm also relied on the props in his mythical gold finger, which was noticed by the successful master of power in his empire. The mighty lord cares little about a new god, but he is the protagonist. The Lord of Power, seeing his potential, decided to focus on cultivating him. For the Lord of Power, their next step, either, is to go further and further down the path of power. Until qualitative change occurs. At the level of power, it reaches the level of competing with the level of the Lord of God. Or, they build their own pantheon and become the Lord of God. But building a pantheon is not easy. It doesn't mean that you can establish a god system if you find a few gods to make a contract. To establish the gods of the 8 classics in the heavens, and become the master of the gods, it is not small. Moreover, the gods in the pantheon also have requirements. Strength is one aspect, and so is potential. This master of power has taken a fancy to the potential of this protagonist, and wants to cultivate it, and then get it under his own god system. Brothers, the eternal lord has appeared, and he has brought back a divine star. This mythical protagonist immediately talked about it in a protagonist group with only a few people. I guessed that he must go to get Gui Shuxing, Shu Tian. Be careful, don't get too close to him. In that group of protagonists, the voice of another protagonist sounded. In this group of protagonists, it was the protagonists who entered the heaven after becoming gods. Oh, don't be afraid, there is the Lord of Lightning, and the Lord of Eternity doesn't even think about hitting me. Also be careful, the Eternal Lord's performance in the heavens was too strong before. When he became the Lord of Power, he and the Lightning Lord were hardened. These news cannot be spread out, otherwise they will come to heaven. Several protagonists in the protagonist group chatted. After they entered the heavenly realm, they all understood the situation in the heavenly realm. They also inquired about the situation when Sumo became the Lord of Power. One by one, they were once again shocked. Sumo was so strong when he attacked the Lord of Power. Now that he has become the Lord of Power, is he still there? Several of them set up a protagonist group and decided. This news cannot be disclosed to other protagonists. Otherwise, there will be fewer protagonists who dare to come to heaven. Seeing that a large number of protagonists have become demons, they still have some concerns. Even if they are both protagonists, the powers of demon gods and gods in the heavens are opposite. Once the war between the heavens and the abyss breaks out, there are too many protagonists who become demon gods, and if these protagonists grow up, it will affect the balance. At that time, the abyss may defeat the heaven. Even if the world is destroyed, this possibility does not necessarily exist. Therefore, these protagonists have frequently appeared in the past 2 months to encourage more protagonists to enter the heaven. The method they provide is very simple, that is to find a backer. Like these protagonists, they basically have powerful lords as their backers. Moreover, the Lord of Power they rely on does not intersect with Sumo. Not all power lords want to befriend Sumo. This is also normal. For ordinary people, there is nothing that everyone likes except money. There is nothing for God to please everyone except power. This mythical protagonist named Shu Tian, looking for a backer, happened to be the Lightning Lord who had a move with Sumo at the beginning. What are you afraid of? The Lightning Lord was just a random blow at the time. His strength is stronger than many power lords. I guess he is very close to the God Lord level. Shu Tian didn't think so. Have full confidence in the Lord of Lightning. The Lightning Lord was hiding there, watching Sumo silently. There was some discomfort in his eyes. When Sumo attacked the Lord of Power, his casual blow was broken by Sumo, and he failed to protect the 2 law powerhouses. The face he lost has not been recovered yet. Seeing that Sumo brought back the returning star, the Lightning Lord was even more upset. Gui Xing, but much more powerful than the Thunderstar he owns. If there is a world-class war, the role of the 9 stars in the heavens will be great. A 9-star can be worth several Power Masters. Even, the Star Master can compete with the God Master level with 9 stars. With full strength, even a giant-level attack can be blocked once or twice. Of course, the consumption would be enormous. Boom. Finally, under the operation of Sumo, Gui Xing completely returned to his place. It started to run along a fixed trajectory. Gui Xing's current speed is not fast. In this way, the returning star can absorb a lot of space energy all the way. The space energy that Gui Star absorbs in the outer space is actually far less than in the celestial realm. However, the ancestors of time and space did not dare to let Gui Xing be in the heaven. If he caught the attention of the powerhouses in the heavens, a giant or something, even he would have to kneel. The reason why he hid so tightly was because he was worried about the power of time he possessed, causing the coveting of the giants. With the return of the returning star, the entire heavenly realm was shaken. Success. After returning to the ruined star, the space in the heavenly realm will be stronger. Yeah. Now a lower-level god can break several layers of space. After returning to his position, the lower-level god doesn't even want to break the surface space. Some gods were discussed there. Eternal Lord, congratulations on getting the return star. This time you let the return star return. It is also a good thing for the heavens. Besides Sumo, some power lords came out. I know Sumo. There were also 1 or 2 Sumo that I didn't know before. Obviously, after Sumo became the Lord of Power and let the returning star return to his place, the number of Lords of Power who were willing to make friends with Sumo also increased. At this moment, Sumo noticed something. Eyes turned in one direction. His eyes turned cold. There, after meeting Sumo's gaze, the Lightning Lord appeared. Eternal Lord, I can't come here to see the situation, can't I? The Lightning Lord snorted softly and said. Sumo's eyes swept over the Lord of Lightning, and then looked at the mythical protagonist Shu Tian behind him. After meeting Sumo's gaze, Shu Tian didn't mindlessly provoke Sumo, but lowered his head. With so many lessons ahead, he wouldn't give Sumo a chance. In fact, he also regretted coming with the Lord of Lightning, but after all came, the Lord of Lightning didn't leave, and he didn't dare to leave. The voice of the Lightning Lord fell. Sumo raised his hand, attacked, and rushed towards the Lord of Lightning at once. Eternal Lord, do you dare to do it? The Lightning Lord is angry. Sumo shot without saying a word. Where did he put his magic power? On his body, terrifying energy fluctuations surged up. Not good. Behind him, Shu Tian's expression changed drastically. Guessed by him. The Lord of Lightning had just blocked Sumo's attack. Sumo slammed and sent out more attacks. The Lord of Lightning thought that Sumo was going to fight with him, and suddenly raised his strength to fight Sumo. But what he didn't expect was that Sumo's attack suddenly became fierce, bypassed him at once, and directly blew Shu Tian up. Damn it. You dare to kill me. The Lightning Lord didn't expect Sumo to do this at all. Suddenly furious. The other Masters of Power also looked a little confused, and did not know why Sumo suddenly shot a lower god behind the Master of Lightning. Lord of Lightning just blocked Sumo's attack, but Sumo directly stopped. Indifferently said, your eyesight is not very good, I don't like this person. The Lightning Lord became even more angry when he heard Sumo's words. Do not like? Someone who didn't like it and shot him directly? Today, you have to give me an explanation. The surroundings of the Lightning Lord were suddenly covered by lightning. Sumo stood there with a calm face, looking at him lightly. Lightning, are you going to start a war? Then, the Thunder Lord came forward. Lightning, the people you brought are sneaky, and there was provocation in the eyes of the Eternal Lord before. There is obviously a problem. I also killed it. The Lord of Flames also came out. The Lord of Storm and Lord of Ice also took a step forward. Damn it. Seeing that so many powerful lords are on Sumo's side. If he wants to shoot, Sumo probably doesn't need to shoot by himself. The Lord of Lightning is about to explode.